The main character wakes up from the sun's rays and asks to turn off the light. The lady also puts her hand on someone's chest. And with a smile on his face, he claims that a man really should have a wide chest. But at the same moment, the main character understands the situation and wonders if she is really touching a man's chest right now. And when she looks up, she sees the face of some guy. The girl thinks, who is this Apollo in the flesh? Who is he? And why is she there? The lady understands that she needs to try to remember what happened yesterday. In the evening, she attended a masquerade ball in honor of the coming of age held at the Imperial Palace, and she charmed a man with a divine appearance whom she ran into there. And although she of course went there to find a worthy son-in-law for her father, but still to make such a mess on the very first day of coming of age is too much. Therefore the lady asks her father in her thoughts to forgive her. And then she notices that this guy turns around and thinks that no matter how much she looks at this face, well, I can't help but smile, and if he doesn't mind, then maybe I should start a romance with him. At this time the blonde makes some sounds, and the main character realizes that it seems he woke up. After which she thinks about what she should do, but the guy just looks at her and then gets up. He hugs the girl and kisses her forehead, after which he asks if she slept well. Judith replies that yes, but she understands that she feels awkward, and the guy, noticing her expression, asks if she is angry. He also apologizes and claims that yesterday was his first time, so he couldn't control himself. Judith wonders what he is saying, and this guy is making her burn with shame. The girl also thinks how, with such external data, yesterday could have been his first night with a woman. And in general, he behaved extremely naturally and also skillfully in bed. At this time, the blonde says that if the lady feels very bad, then maybe it is worth calling a doctor. The main character screams that it's not necessary, everything is fine, but she wonders if he's really going to spread the word to the whole neighborhood about what happened that night. At this time, the blonde asks how about having a snack, because the lady is hungry. Judith says that everything is fine because she usually doesn't have breakfast and she will have lunch at home. Well, the blonde just rings the bell and says that if the lady skips meals like this, she will be reduced to skin and bones, so she will eat and then she can go home. The main character understands that he is too persistent. However, if she does not return home as soon as possible, her father and brothers will go crazy. At the same moment, the lady asks for forgiveness, but wonders if he could turn away. The blonde only approaches her. And he also says that they have already seen each other, so why be embarrassed now? And they also told each other their names. The girl remembers how last night she said that he didn't even introduce himself. After which, the guy claimed that his name was Theodore. Now, the main character pronounces this name, and the blonde wonders if she remembered. The girl understands that this face is a real cheating trick, and she also says that she needs to say something. She is about to say something about what happened yesterday, but at that moment, someone knocks at the door and Theodore pulls the lady towards him, and also tells the one who is behind the door to come in. The maid asks His Majesty if he called her, and the main character thinks what he just said, and it seemed she heard a word that she should never have heard. After which the main character asks if this is really His Imperial Majesty. The guy answers Judith that, and the main character, although she smiles in her thoughts, she only asks her to honor her. The reason she reacts this way is not only because of the rumors that he is a tyrant. The problem is that this is a passage from a romantic novel that she read before falling into eternal sleep. The girl said that it had very touching content. In the previous world, her name was Yu Hai Sun, and she was a Brent who passed the exam. This love story was in the fantasy genre. The main character there also becomes the Emperor's knight and goes through all the difficulties and hardships with him. Healing the wounds of the cold-blooded ruler, they finally get married, which is a sign of a happy ending. The main character immediately threw off the blanket, and she screamed that no matter how you look at it, Serena is an amazing woman, and in comparison to her, the secondary villain named Judith is simply disgusting. Judith Pellegrim. Unlike Serena, who achieved success on her own, Judith married into the family and is a despicable thing who receives no love from her family. Ultimately, because of the envy that has festered in her heart, she begins to torture the main character and meets her miserable immersion into eternal sleep. The girl understood that although she can sympathize with the fact that she is not loved in the family, well, to find yourself in the body of such a character is the worst of all evils. However, when she woke up, the girl regretted her words. When she opened her eyes at that very moment, the maid turned to her and insisted that it was time to eat. At this time, Judith wondered if God really had any grudge against her because in her past life, she was also a child who was given his attention and who was able to enter university only on her third attempt. It's too unfair to be put into eternal sleep in a car accident a week before the entrance ceremony. And if we are talking about reincarnation, then it should be a character who is 100% waiting for a path strewn with flowers, for example, like little sister Serena. That's why the girl begs to be sent back to South Korea so that Judith can fall into eternal sleep. By the hand of the tyrant protagonist, Theodore Grein, Lou Valdemar is the current ruler of the empire, which has the largest territory on the continent. He was the only heir to the imperial throne, but when the previous emperor's mistress gave birth to a son, his situation began to deteriorate day by day, and the boy's own mother took her own life after a false accusation. At 19, when the boy's father died, he ascended the throne. Soon after, in a fire that arose for unknown reasons, the second prince and tyrant who mercilessly put his father and brother into eternal sleep for the sake of the throne was plunged into eternal sleep. This is a terrifying figure and the main character of a novel called For My Emperor Inside, which the main character finds herself. The girl understands that being in this novel is something. But in relation to Judith, the main character was a real enemy. He went so far as to even put his fiancée Judith into eternal sleep because she prevented him from having an affair with the main character. Well, then the girl understands that if she doesn't meet this idiot from the very beginning, then she can live in peace. Judith is the only daughter of the ducal family in the Valdemar Empire, and if she tries hard enough, she can live happily ever after. Even though she was treated like that, she shouldn't be sad because she is a fan of romance novels, so she can cope with her second life. And in this world, there is no place without a kind heart. Life in which there is no need is filled to the brim with the warm affection of household members, whose attitude towards her was radically different from her family from her past life. Therefore, the girl understood that the life of a villainous lady with a golden spoon was the best thing that could be imagined. The lady's family suits her completely, and now all that's left for her to do is deal with this idiot emperor. The lady understood that she was too crazy, so even crossing paths with him was dangerous, and it would be better not to see him at all for a century. For this reason, the lady could not attend the New Year's ball, the Thanksgiving reception, and generally all banquets held in the imperial palace. Well, she didn't have the opportunity to live her whole life without going anywhere because she wanted to have an affair with someone. And that day there was a masquerade ball in honor of coming of age. It is a banquet for members of the nobility who have recently come of age, and the emperor leaves the reception every year immediately after delivering a congratulatory speech. In other words, on this day you can confidently look for candidates for sons-in-law because her face is hidden under a mask. Well, when a girl looks at other guys, she thinks, why there isn't a single handsome guy there? She also wonders if this is the best the empire can offer her. The girl also understood that she needed to return home and ask the brothers who refused to keep her company to console her. But at that moment, the lady noticed someone else. When she looked at this handsome man, she realized that she had found her future husband. Well, the guy just smiled after that and then turned around. The girl screamed at him, after which he all directed after this guy. Well, while she was running, her mask flew off. But there was no time to get her up, and this guy had already gone around the corner. Judith told him to wait and screamed that she had asked him to wait. After which the lady followed him into some room. When the blonde turned to her, he asked whether he should call her brave or naive. He also asked if the lady had not been taught not to follow strangers so carelessly. Judith claimed that he was the first to make eyes at her, after which the guy just smiled. He took off his mask and asked if he understood correctly that the lady had succumbed to his temptation. The main character thinks why he treats her like a child, after which she pulls the guy towards her. And he kisses. Theodore's mask falls onto the field and the guy only pulls her closer to him, after which the lady puts him on the bed and kisses her neck, but suddenly the guy stops. After which he claims that this is unacceptable because he should not act this way. Judith asks what exactly is unacceptable since she is already an adult, but the blonde replies that she will regret it. The girl with a smile on her face answers that she won't, after which she kisses him again. Now the main character looks at the food and understands that the previous night was too amazing, but now she regrets what she did very much. The girl understands that she has gone crazy and also thinks why she did not understand that there was some kind of trick behind this face. No matter how you look at it, this is clearly the appearance of the main character, and due to personal interest, her gaze went in the wrong direction. Well, then the girl realizes that now is not the time for jokes, after which she bows down and also claims that she has committed an act of disrespect to His Majesty, which she does not even dare to mention out loud. If he leaves her alive, she will never appear in the master's sight again. At this time, the guy is only wondering if she is really saying that she will leave him, but the lady dared to steal the emperor's innocence and is now going to run away. So he asks if this is really treason. The main character is shocked, thinking about what kind of theft he is talking about and whether he has gone too far. After all, it was actually a mutual agreement. The blonde turns to Judith at this point. The lady realizes that, as expected, if she is destined to fall into eternal sleep, then this cannot be changed, and yet she worked so hard, but in the end she will meet her end in this way. Theodore just kisses the girl and is surprised for some reason, and the blonde says that since she dragged him into bed, she must take responsibility for this. Judith wonders if he is really suggesting that she answer for what she has done by falling into eternal sleep. But judging by the atmosphere, you can't say so, because the guy seems to be all in anticipation. The main character only gets embarrassed after this. But she claims that she is ready to take responsibility, after which he asks what is required of her. A little while later, the girl is eating, and the blonde asks her if she liked the food. The main character replies that yes, and she understands that he said to take responsibility and he himself feeds her with goodies. So the lady thinks he is really a good man. But then she realizes that he is not, because that man is a tyrant who was only kind to Serena. Well, nevertheless, when he smiles, he looks very good-natured. The blonde at this time asks what day would be best for them to have a wedding. The main character only chokes on this, and the guy asks if she's okay. Judith is shocked and thinks that this guy is not talking about the ravings of a madman. Theodore notices the lady coughing and asking if there is anyone outside, after which the butler enters. The man asks who was responsible for creating the breakfast menu, to which he replies that it was the chef. And the blonde says that if you give bread to a person who overdid it yesterday, then isn't that the same as trying to put him into eternal sleep? So let the guy throw the culprit into prison right now. The main character is shocked by this and understands that she just started coughing because she suddenly heard terrible words from him, after which the girl turns to His Majesty and claims that she just chewed too quickly. The guy just puts his hand on hers and says that it's not her fault at all because she has a piece of bread stuck in her throat, and the one who baked this bread is to blame. The main character, looking at the expression on this guy's face, wonders if she is really not sleeping. After all, she never expected that there was another person in the world who looked like her father and older brothers. When the lady fell as a child, the man screamed that the gardener had left a stump in the garden, and as a result, Judith was hurt. So he claimed he was fired, but then claimed he would cut off the gardener's hand. The main character thought that this was all that was going on, after which she turned to her daddy and told him to hug her. The man and his sons fell silent after that, and then he even picked up his daughter in his arms and said, "Of course." At that time, the girl deliberately forced her father and brothers to carry her in their arms in order to moderate their ardor, and this time, too, she should do something. Therefore, the main character turns to His Majesty and claims that if the chef is fired, then she will be very upset because this bread is very tasty. The guy only remains silent after that. And then he turns to the butler and tells him to tell the chef to pay more attention to the menu in the future and to write out a bonus. The main character realizes that she didn't think it would actually work. But the blonde just looks at her as if asking if he's a good guy. Judith understands that after he almost ruined someone's life, it is illegal to light up the world with such a smile, and the girl thinks, is he really a big puppy because he is so eager for praise? The guy at this time suggests returning to their conversation and also claims that he is talking about their wedding. The main character asks if he is talking about the wedding and realizes that it seems like everything she ate is about to come out. The blonde wonders if this is what she meant by taking responsibility. And the girl only thinks why being a tyrant he has the qualities of a monogamist, and she so wants to refuse because in the original work, a political marriage was also concluded between Judith and Theo. And if she follows the same path, her chances of falling into eternal sleep will increase. Well, she's also afraid to refuse him because what if her father and brothers suffer because of her? At this time, the butler knocks on the door of the room and asks His Majesty for forgiveness and also claims that an urgent matter has arisen. The guy then asks what happened, after which the butler tells him. The main character sighs and realizes that thanks to the servant's arrival, she survived. Theo turns to Judith at this point and apologizes, but claims that he needs to step away for a bit. He also tells the lady to rest, but he will return soon, and if she feels unwell, he will immediately tell her the way. The main character wishes him to sort out all the matters as soon as possible, after which he leaves. A little while later, the blonde is already sitting on the throne. Alpin, looking at His Majesty, understands that he is clearly not in the mood today. At this time, the blonde turns to Sir Pelegrim and asks what business he had come to him for early in the morning. The man then asks His Majesty for forgiveness and asks him to allocate several soldiers and allow him to search the imperial palace. Theo asks what the reason is, and the man replies that his faithful servant's daughter has gone missing. The boy asks if he is talking about Miss Pelegrim, and the man replies that her whereabouts after yesterday's visit to the banquet at the imperial palace are unknown. He searched the entire capital, but to no avail. Theo asks if he is talking about the banquet at the imperial palace. He then claims that the young lady is missing. This is a serious matter, so he gives his personal permission to search the imperial palace. The girl's father says he is deeply touched by His Majesty's kindness. However, the blonde also adds that searching the imperial palace is a serious act of assistance to the authorities, so let him not forget that this was only possible thanks to his generosity. The man says that yes, he will never forget this and will certainly repay His Majesty for his kindness. The blonde says that it's good, and he can go, after which the Duke leaves and the guy thinks about something. Well, at that very moment, the butler bursts into the room and cries out to His Majesty, and he asks what happened, after which the servant replies that the lady who was in the room disappeared. The main character is near the wall at this time and understands that she needs to make sure that everything is done correctly. First, an apologetic note was left in case of the Emperor's anger. There the lady wrote that her family members were worried, so she was going home for a while. Secondly, the girl asked to call the court physician by stimulating the pain, and then slipped out of the room while the servant was away. Thirdly, she will ask her maid Marie to become her, and she will run away to another country. Fourthly, even if the Emperor comes to visit Judith, he will only meet Maria and will be published because he will not be able to find her. And the last one is that the problem will be solved when the Emperor falls in love with Serena, like in the original, and everything will be great. Then she will return home and live happily with her daddy and brothers. The girl understands that this is truly the perfect plan. But then she remembers that she has lost the identification card needed to leave the imperial palace. At this time, someone informs His Majesty that this is Lady Pelegrim's identity card. The note was found next to the bed, and the ID was found in the hallway of the banquet hall. The blonde then remembers how the lady addressed him last night, and also how she had dinner in the morning, after which she claims that she is the very definition of charm. The servant watching the master wonders if he was really in a bad mood, and the other butler at this time asks His Majesty how to punish that man. His Majesty replies that there is no need to punish anyone because she simply went home for a short time. The servant immediately bows and cries out that he is deeply touched by the immeasurable kindness of His Majesty. The man then moves on and states that he thinks 12 hours would be enough for the lady to spend time with her family. At the same time, Judith continued to wander near the entrance to the imperial palace. The girl understands that if she tells the guard what happened and confirms her identity, she will be able to leave. Well, if that tyrant finds out that she is Lady Pelegrim, then she will come to an end. So the girl thinks if there is some way to distract the guards. At that moment, someone says that he will have to stay here and he will accompany his father, and the main character thinks that this is a painfully familiar voice. After which she turns to her brother and the guy asks if it is Judith. But the guard stops the lady and asks for forgiveness, but claims that she needs to show her ID. The girl's brother immediately tells him to wait because this girl is his younger sister, and he is also the guarantor of her identity card, so let the servant quickly remove this terrible weapon from Judith. The servant immediately asks for forgiveness, and the main character understands that this is the power of the commander of the knightly detachment. The lady also thinks what a blessing it is that her older brother is nearby, so she needs to return home quickly. The guy at this time takes his sister's face in his hands and asks where to live. The girl disappeared yesterday and whether she was hurt and also whether something bad happened. The main character apologizes and claims that she drank a lot yesterday and fell asleep. Chiron asks if anything bad happened to her. Hey, the girl replies that fortunately she didn't answer. She just fell asleep, and when she opened her eyes, it was already morning, although she understands that the emperor was also lying nearby. After this, the guy says that, okay, and the main thing is that the lady is safe and sound, so he will go get her father, and she should wait for them in the carriage. Judith asks if he will follow his father, and the guy replies that yes, his father was so worried about the lady that he asked His Majesty for permission to search the imperial palace. The girl thinks why he went to the emperor because if she becomes who she is, she will have big problems. So this can't be allowed. The lady immediately leans against her little brother and claims that she feels very bad because of what she drank yesterday. So she wonders if she can just go home. The guy then says that he will leave first to take Judith home and that they should stay there and wait for their father. The butler agrees, and the main character mentally apologizes for having just deceived her brother, but she did it only to survive. A little while later, they are already approaching the ducal family's mansion. The lady's other brother is walking around the mansion, but at that moment the butler enters the room and tells the young master that the lady has returned home. The guy at the same moment asks if Judith has been found. This young man is the ruler of the magic tower named Ludwig Pellegrim. The guy immediately turns to his sister and asks why she came with Chiron and why he is holding her hand because she really got hurt. The main character at this time only turns to her brother and asks what his clothes are dirty with. After all, it looks like a red liquid. The guy just smiles and tells the girl not to worry because he never puts good people into eternal sleep. At the same moment, someone screams to Judith. He also says that the child has returned home and asks if she knows how worried her father was all night long. The girl, looking at the broken door and the handle left from it, understands that all three members of the family have gathered together. This is the commander of the Night Squad, who is the first brother, the Lord of the Magic Tower, who is the second brother, and her father, who is the head of the Noble Council. There, the plot settings were excessive. The main character apologizes at this time, and the man says that everything is fine now because her dad is next to her, and asks if the girl was hurt. Chiron says that Judith said that she felt bad. The man immediately screams out, "Is this really so?" After which he says that he should call a doctor right now. The main character only asks them to know the measure in her thoughts. A little while later, the girl is already sitting in her room, and the doctor claims that the lady upset stomach due to the fact that she drank a lot of alcohol. The lady's father immediately screams if there is a way to immediately get rid of this ailment, and Ludwig screams for honey water to be brought quickly. Chiron tells his sister that if she feels bad, she doesn't have to hold back. At this time, the main character thinks that if she disappears from the sight of the inhabitants of this house for even a second, then trouble cannot be avoided. The girl also turns to her father and brothers and says that she is now completely fine so they can return to their business because each of them occupies a very important position. And what's more, she felt much better just from seeing the faces of her family members. When the main character looks at the faces of her relatives, she understands that they look like very gullible people. When they leave the room, one of the brothers tells his sister that he will quickly finish his business and return to her, to which the lady agrees. A little while later, the girl opens the window and the maid turns to her and asks if the mistress is really leaving. She also claims that being a lady's double is too difficult for her, but the main character tells Maria that it is for everyone's happiness, and if her father suddenly says anything, then let her show him this letter. The girl also says that she went. A little while later, she comes to the fence and realizes that she is sure that somewhere there is a hole leading outside. When the girl finds him, she crawls through and realizes that she has ruined her reputation as a lady in every possible way. However, the escape was successfully completed, and now all that remains is to get to the port. But at the same moment, someone addresses the lady by name, and when she raises her head, then His Majesty sees her, who claims that he has come for her. A little while later, the servants greet His Majesty, and the main character understands that in the end, she returned again to the lair of the tiger, or rather the dragon. She also understands that the imperial palace fully lives up to its name, drowning in luxury. When the lady looks at one of the paintings, the guy asks if she likes it, and if she wants to take a closer look. Judith replies that she does, and she understands that she is in no position to refuse. The blonde claims that it is said that the first rulers of the empire were half human and half dragon. The symbol of the imperial family is the dragon, so they worship its power. And even now, from time to time, members of the imperial family are born who inherit the dragon village. Judith wonders if he is really praising himself in the form of a challenge to listening. According to the description of the original, the dragon power inherited by Theo is firstly a body as strong as dragon scales, and secondly, the strength of the hero is similar to the violence of her father or brother Chiron, and lastly, this is the sword with ego, which was used by one emperor. The girl understands that this guy has taken everything he can, and the blonde at this time offers to go. To which the main character agrees and understands that since his role as the main male character is reinforced by so many passes, he must be recognized as the emperor, despite the fact that he plunged people into eternal sleep. And besides, he will soon meet the main character and find the love of his life. Then, she will gain freedom and the life of a minor character that is healing like a plum. Well, when the blonde undresses, the main character screams in shock at what he is doing now. It may be presumptuous of her to say so, but she is not yet ready for a night with His Majesty. The guy then apologizes and claims that he just needed to change. And now he can only give her his clothes, but tomorrow morning he will call the best couturiers to make her outfits. The main character tells him not to apologize and thanks His Majesty for his concern. Well, she still thinks why it was necessary to undress like that, confusing her. A little while later, she is already putting on a robe and shirt, and His Majesty looking at her is embarrassed. Judith turns to him and says that she put on what he gave her, but the lady realizes that the sight leaves a somewhat strange feeling. The blonde then apologizes and the main character asks what he is talking about. The guy claims that he thinks she pushed him away because he couldn't control himself, and he should have been more attentive yesterday. When the main character looks at this guy, she thinks why he looks unhappy. The lady claims that yesterday everything was fine, so there is no need to torment yourself like that. After which, the blonde approaches her and offers to repeat. Judith is embarrassed and wonders if he is really going to take the initiative this time. But the guy just says that it's time for them to go to bed because it's late and also wishes her good night. Judith understands that she planned to have nothing more to do with the emperor, so it's good that nothing will happen. Well, the lady wonders if he really doesn't know when to stop and why he's so mean. The next morning, the girl wakes up with him again and says that a man really should have a wide chest. At the same moment, the blonde wonders if she really likes his chest so much. And the main character, realizing the situation she is in, immediately apologizes, but the guy says that she can continue to touch her because he doesn't mind. The main character realizes that she is in trouble again and wonders what kind of damned hands she has. At this time, the guy apologizes for his tactlessness and lifts her into his arms, which surprises the lady. After which he carries her to the table and asks if the girl feels better and says that she should eat something. Judith replies that she feels much better than yesterday, and the blonde asks if that's true and says what a relief it is. When a girl looks at him, she thinks why he is in such a good mood, and because of this, she is left with a bad feeling. At this time, the guy starts talking about their wedding, after which he asks when it would be best to hold the ceremony. He asks if it would be better to do it the day after tomorrow, and the main character wonders if he has really fallen out of his mind and that he should play the wedding alone. She has serious problems and he has no intention of listening to her words, so at all costs she must prevent this wedding from taking place. The girl thinks that her brain cells should work off the food they were given, after which she claims that to be honest she dared to lie to His Majesty. The guy asks if this is really true, and the main character replies that yes, and in reality she is not Lady Judith but a maid at the Duke's residence. The guy just smiles after this, and the lady claims that when she said she wanted to go to the Imperial Palace, the lady sent her to the masquerade ball instead of herself. But she is a commoner and cannot marry His Majesty because there will be many people who will oppose it, so she asks you not to do it. The girl wonders if her excuses are meager, after which His Majesty approaches her and claims that everything is fine because she is the one he wants to marry, and who would dare to oppose it. Judith realizes that after these words, she has no argument left at all, and it is now May. And Theo meets Serena at the Harvest Festival in September, so the girl thinks if there is a way to somehow drag out time until then. The lady also tells His Majesty about the cherry blossoms because she wants to have her wedding on the day when the cherry blossoms fall from the trees like snow. She also asks if he is against it, and understands that the cherry tree will only bloom in March next year, and she probably went too far. Well, after this, the blonde agrees and suggests getting married on the day when cherry petals start flying. At the same time, in the duchy's residence, a man asks if the maid is saying that Judith has disappeared. After which, the maid apologizes, but claims that the mistress said that he would understand everything when she gave him this letter. After which, the man opens it and reads, "The girl wrote to her beloved brothers and dad that when they read this letter, she will already be far from home. Yesterday, at the masquerade ball, she made a huge mistake in front of the emperor, so she will hide for a while for fear that the sparks of his anger could spread to her precious household. When His Majesty comes to look for her, let them show him Maria saying that it is she, and perhaps His Majesty will surrender when he realizes that it is not the one he is looking for." She was sorry to make them worry, but let her brothers and father not worry too much and be healthy until they meet again. A man with shaking hands asks how badly this crazy emperor scared their daughter so much that she decided to run away from home. After which he turns to Chiron and Ludwig and also tells them to take the knights and search the capital, because she could not have gone far, to which they agree. After which one of the brothers asks, "What about their father?" and he replies that he will go to the imperial palace. The main character yawns at this time and realizes that she is tired, and probably it is all because in the morning she had to go through a kind of fashion show choosing clothes. And then there was the commotion when she tripped and stepped on the hem of her dress. The girl understands that His Majesty really behaves the same way as her household. Well, when they are heading down the corridor, the main character notices some portrait. She realizes that the man on it has dazzlingly blonde hair and deep blue eyes. The guy was a handsome man already at such a young age. The main character also asks His Majesty if this child is a hoax, and the guy asks if she found out right away. Judith replies that even if the painting is turned upside down, the child depicted in it will still be his spitting image. After this, the guy asks her if anything else comes to mind, and the main character thinks about what answer he wants to hear. After which he asks if he was handsome since childhood, but the guy just turns away and says, "The state is correct." The main character, seeing his reaction, asks if she said something wrong, and the guy's answer no. Judith realizes that it is obvious to the naked eye that he is worried about something. After which she asks His Majesty why he wants to marry her, to which he replies that it is because she spent the first night with him. Judith asks, what if he suddenly spent the night with some other woman, to which the guy replies that this would never happen. But the main character understands that after meeting Serena he will change his mind. The girl also says that nevertheless he may regret that he tied the knot with a man with whom he simply spent one passionate night, and perhaps he will meet someone better than her. But the blonde turns to Judith and claims that there is no one better than her, and even if there is, he does not need this person, because the lady is the only one his heart desires, and it doesn't matter even if she doesn't remember the details. However, let her remember one thing forever, and that is that he will not under any circumstances. He is not going to let her go, after which the guy kisses the lady's hand. The main character is embarrassed by this, but at the same moment she hears someone screaming that he cannot enter. The main character wonders who it is because this voice is painfully familiar, so she is very anxious. At that moment the lady's father breaks down the door and asks if His Majesty is there. And when he goes inside he sees his daughter. The main character Datova is surprised, and a little while later, the whole family is already at the table with the emperor. The blonde with a smile on his face suggests that they begin the meal, and the main character wonders if anyone could swallow a bite in such an atmosphere. The Duke at this time turns to His Majesty and asks what the hell the lady has sinned against him in, and if he tells him what happened, then he as a father will accept the punishment instead of his daughter. The main character thinks that this is not possible because in that case this work will become a genre of a novel between two men. The blonde replies that the lady committed a very serious sin and is about to say that they spent the night, but the main character coughs at that very moment. The brothers are worried about their sister and immediately ask if she is okay. The blonde at this time tells the butler to call the doctor alive. But the main character says that there is no need because she is fine and understands that in any case, this is fate from which one cannot escape. Judith sheepishly says that in fact, on the day of the masquerade ball, she and His Majesty spent the night together. The lady's brothers are shocked by this, but His Majesty just sits with a smile on his face. At this time, the Duke asks who she is with and what she did, and the main character apologizes. She realizes that she didn't attach much importance to something like one time or something like that, but the fact that her family is disappointed in her. The Duke at that moment slams his hand on the table and asks how His Majesty is dared to spend the night with his daughter. The main character is surprised by this and thinks that in fact his opponent is a tyrant. The lady also tells her father that there was a misunderstanding because she approached His Majesty. But her brother cries out, "What kind of shamelessness is this? And did His Majesty force their naive Judith to say so?" The other brother also says that it is unfortunate that the man to whom he swore allegiance turned out to be a base thief. And their father cries out that it is true, and does their little angel lack something for her to take such a step as seducing a man like His Majesty? The main character mentally belittles them, stops and thinks if life is really only dear to her. The blonde at this time says that even if they don't believe, it doesn't change the fact that the lady took his innocence and she promised to take responsibility for what she did. The Duke then asks if he really wants to say that, because of one night the guy is going to marry Judith. Theo replies that he is a man who is very sensitive to such a concept as chastity, and he decided to give all of himself to only one woman whom he loves. Judith realizes that her dad is losing a bit, and the man Theo says that since we're talking about marriage, he'd like to ask what day would be best for the wedding because he's ready to tie the knot with Judith even tomorrow. The man only squeezes the table because of this, and the main character seeing this tells him that he shouldn't do this. When the father looks at his daughter, he finally calms down, after which he keeps saying that he heard that in their days there is nothing reprehensible in that. That unmarried men and women make love, and they spent the night by mutual consent, so he believes that she did not commit any unforgivable mistake before His Majesty, after which the lady's father says that they will go. Judith wonders if the invincible tyrant would sit idly by in such a situation. The Duke turns to his daughter and says that she must be tired, so he suggests that they return home quickly. But at that very moment, the Emperor turns to Sir Pelegrim and asks if he remembers the promise he made to him that day. After all, he said that he would repay him for allowing the search of the imperial palace. The Duke replies that this is exactly so. Whereupon His Majesty states that he hopes, as a reward for the kindness he has shown, the Duke will consent to accept him as his son-in-law. The blonde asks what he thinks about this. The lady's brothers are shocked, after which all three ask if His Majesty has gone mad. The main character thinks that the situation is bad, and at this rate the father and his brothers will be accused of treason, after which the girl screams for them to calm down. The rest of her family just thinks how cute it is. After all, the lady is already raising her voice at her dad and older brothers, so his daughter is already quite big. The Emperor realizes that she had to clench her fists and strain with all her might to produce such a loud sound. The main character at this time suggests to act differently. After all, they do not know each other properly yet, so she will come to the imperial palace every day to meet with His Majesty. And if after some time His Majesty does not change his mind, then they will return to the conversation about marriage. The Duke tells Judith that he is against it, but the main character firmly replies that objections are not accepted. Since she messed up, she must bear responsibility for it. Judith also realizes that it may be time to put the finishing touches on things. She turns to her daddy and brothers and offers to go home, to which they agree. Well, when the lady leaves, someone else addresses her. Turning around, the girl sees the Emperor. Looking at his face, she understands that she can't give in when he makes that face, after which she only says goodbye to him coldly. A little while later, the girl thinks whether she did everything right. After all, even though she had to raise her voice, she was afraid to go to the meeting with Theo tomorrow. The girl wonders if this means that she will fall into eternal sleep even before the events of the original begin to unfold. But then she realizes that she can't give up, because the reason Judith's life ended is because she interfered with Theo and Serena's relationship, so she must desperately protect her. The love story of these two, if we consider it as a short-term romance, then she can break up with Theo at any moment. His face is as flawless as a dish from the best restaurant in the capital, and you can enjoy this view for some time. The girl also realizes that she feels like the Emperor is a little softer than in the original, and she is sure that he was an extremely rude and harsh character before meeting Serena. But then the girl wonders why there is a smile on his face so often. At that very moment, someone knocks on her room door, and when the lady tells the person behind the door to come in, Then her two brothers come into her room. Judith realizes that she feels a little awkward about what happened this afternoon. Ludwig tells his sister that after such a long time he thought of organizing a special lesson on teaching magic and wonders how the girl feels about it. The main character replies that yes, and she will be happy to practice. People understand that although now this is already a well-known fact, but as they say among the ancestors of the Pellegrim family, there were representatives of the demonic race. Therefore, the descendants of the family are born with a strength that exceeds human strength, as in the case of her father and older brother. The body Judith entered into inherited another different power of the demonic race. And if you ask what it is, who is this useless ability to absorb magic? When the brother's blow hits the lady's back, a shield immediately forms on her which protects her. The main character says that she couldn't dodge again, and her brother suggests taking a little break. A little while later, the girl turns to her brother and claims that no matter how much she thinks it seems she has no talent for magic, so perhaps she can stop holding these special classes. Ludwig tells his sister to listen, to believe in the world. Men are divided into exactly two types. The main character wonders what he is talking about. And the guy claims that some of them are trash and others are real garbage. The main character is trampled by such words. Chiron asks if Judith is okay, to which the girl replies that she is, and Ludwig says who knows what kind of hangnails she will have to face in life, so it is better to master the basics of self-defense magic. And besides, she has an angel's heart, which is why she agreed to meet with this damn emperor every day. Judith understands that he still likes the fact that she is dating Theo, and the lady is interested in what type the brothers are. Ludwig replies that he and Chiron are good-natured trash and don't know anyone, except for their little sister. But at that moment, the other brother hits him on the forehead and asks who he called trash. The main character smiles in response to this. This is what she understands, that nevertheless, she is glad that the brothers are not angry with her because of what happened during the day. When the girl moves on, she realizes that after the training, her soul has become somehow lighter. Walking down the corridor, the lady notices her father and addresses him. The two approach the balcony, and the man asks if tomorrow the ladies are going to visit the imperial palace where that wild beast is. The main character replies that there is no need to worry too much about her and understands that anyone looking from the outside will think that she is already being married off. The girl also tells her dad to listen to what happened during the day, but the man only apologizes to his children for scaring her then. The Duke also claims that Judith is now an adult, and there is no sin in having a deep relationship with someone. However, neither he nor her brothers will be satisfied with anyone she brings. Nevertheless, let the lady remember one thing well. After all, no matter what choice she makes, Judith will remain the most precious person to them. The main character almost cries and understands that she is truly loved very much. The girl hugs her father and claims that she loves him, and is also really happy that she was born his daughter Judith, realizes that she has such a stronghold of protection in the form of her family, so what is there in this world for her to be afraid of? At this time, the blonde is in his office and tapping his finger on the table. The butler, observing him, understands that the gentleman is not at all focused on work, after which His Majesty turns to Alpin, and he orders to quickly get a tear of hysteria. The guy at this time thinks that if we are talking about what he thought about, this is the most expensive diamond ring sold on the black market in recent times. And the day came when His Majesty, like a stone statue, proposed marriage to a girl. He already thought that the emperor was impotent. At this time, the blonde tells the guy to find some more cherry trees in bloom, and no matter how much money it takes, just let him find them. Alpin apologizes to His Majesty and claims that all the cherry trees have finished blooming last month and will bloom again only next year. Well, the emperor only says that the servant is very talkative today, and if something is impossible, then let him make it possible. At this time, Chiron is looking at some paper. He thinks about the emperor and realizes that he is the biggest thief in the world. Riding his horse across the battlefield, he had absolutely no interest in women, but how dare he lay eyes on Judith? The butler turns to the young gentleman, and when he turns around, he asks what is going on. Well, the servant replies that there is an important guest at the door. The emperor at this time enters the room to Chiron and also wishes him good morning. The young lady's brother realizes that the idiot he wants to put into eternal sleep has come there himself. The blonde only says that the boy now apparently shows no respect for him. Chiron, trying to contain his anger, claims that it is indeed a good morning, but wonders what brought His Majesty there at such an early hour. The blonde replies that he came for Judith. The lady asks why His Majesty came for her. The emperor asks if she didn't say she was coming to meet him, and Chiron replies that his sister is still sleeping. The blonde says that's great, because he came to see her sleeping face. But the brunette screams that it's impossible because his sister can't sleep normally when someone is next to her. The emperor only asks with a smile on his face if he is serious, since she was snoring so sweetly in his arms. After which the two exchange glances, and the servants watching them mentally ask Mistress Judith to wake up quickly and stop them. A little while later, the main character opens her eyes and realizes that she felt something like a desperate call mentally transmitted. The lady also turns to Maria and asks if she can help her change her clothes. Well, when the girl doesn't see anyone, she thinks it's strange. At that time, the maid turns to the mistress and says that she woke up so early. The main character is wondering what is going on and where everyone has gone, and the maid is wondering if the lady really doesn't know. After all, His Majesty, the emperor arrived early in the morning to take her to the imperial palace. A little while later, Judith comes down the stairs and realizes that everyone has gathered in the young gentleman's room on the second floor, and she also thinks about what other troubles her household is going to cause. When the girl looks into the room where everyone is gathered, she hears her brother say that this is the first picture that Judith painted, and it depicts him. Chiron wonders if the girl hasn't emphasized the main features, because it clearly shows that Ludwig was taller than his peers from a young age. The main character watching this is only embarrassed and wonders what they are showing the emperor. The blonde asks how it is possible to express the essence with just a few strokes, and abstract art is his taste. Judith wonders why he agrees with them with such a serious look. A little while later, he is shown the doll that Judith gave to Chiron for his birthday. Theo states that he definitely prefers free forms that go beyond the template. The two also show a letter the girl wrote for Ludwig's birthday, and the boy wonders if her handwriting wasn't already particularly elegant back then. His Majesty replies that indeed, and he also wants to receive a letter from her. Well, the lady left him only one thing, and the main character thinks about it. She realizes that she didn't give Theo anything, after which she wonders if this is really about the note she left back then saying that she was sending me a long welcome home. At this time, Ludwig shows Judith a bag of cookies that he gave her, which she made herself, and although they ate the cookies, they kept the bag as a keepsake. At this time, the main character is thinking about what to do with these bastards and why embarrassment is her lot. When His Majesty wants to touch the bag, one of the brothers immediately removes it and screams for the guy to remove his hands, otherwise there will be fingerprints left. A little while later, the main character is already sitting next to the emperor, and the artist is drawing them. The girl wonders if he is really so envious of his brothers, and at such moments he really does remind her of the blockheads from her house. The girl also understands that painting a portrait takes a lot of time, and because she has been sitting motionless for a long time, her eyes begin to stick together, after which the main character closes her eyes and leans against the emperor. When the guy notices this, he turns to Judith but realizes that she has already fallen asleep, after which he calls Alpin to him and whispers something the artist watching them thinks what happened. And is the emperor really angry because he took too long when His Majesty himself ordered him to draw slowly? At this point, the blonde takes the girl in his arms and says that he thinks the artist has more or less captured the essence of color rendering. So when he's done, let her take the painting to his office, to which he agrees but still wonders why the emperor was suddenly in such a hurry. A little while later, Ludwig is heading somewhere. One of his colleagues whispers to another why the mad dog is in such a bad mood today because he is really furious. The other one replies that he doesn't know, but since he even went to exterminate monsters that he doesn't usually hunt, that means he's clearly furious. Ludwig at this time remembers how the emperor claimed to be taking his sister to the imperial palace and cursed him. The guy also uses magic and wonders if he is really going to twist the timid and weak-willed Judith around his finger. Well, at that very moment, he notices a bird with a letter, and when he unfolds it, he is surprised. The main character is in bed at this time, and the emperor watching her understands that this is real torture. Judith says in her sleep that she is cold. Theo understands that although it is absurd to see her like this, he then turns to Judith and states that he is having a hard time keeping himself under control, so he suggests waking up quickly. The main character opens her eyes and asks what he is talking about, after which everyone understands that the Emperor is in front of her. The blonde asks if she slept well, and the girl wonders what kind of situation this is and why she is there. At this time, someone knocks on His Majesty's office and claims that the ruler of the Magic Tower asks for an audience. The main character wonders if it is Brother Ludwig. At the same moment, the guy enters the room and turns to his sister and also asks if nothing happened. The girl replies that she doesn't, and His Majesty sternly asks what this important question is. Ludwig is thinking at this time why this guy is lying down, and it's all somehow suspicious. The guy claims that he was informed that chimeras were found in the forest on the western outskirts of the capital this morning. One of them was immediately plunged into eternal sleep, and the other disappeared and is now being tracked down. The main character wonders if they are talking about chimeras, and in this novel there is only one person who knows how to control such creatures. This is the second prince known to the world as Undead, and he is the main villain of the novel named Seferin Eckhart. The second prince was the illegitimate son of the late emperor and his mistress. However, he was an ordinary person unlike Theo, who inherited the power of the imperial family. Therefore, the boy's mother, who wanted to make her son the heir to the throne, tried to change his abilities with the help of black magic. Due to a difficult childhood, Eckhart's spirit was broken, and after being put into eternal sleep by a cruel mother, all his anger was transferred to Theo, the older brother who has everything he does not. Without any effort and simply because he was born under a lucky star, Eckhart eventually dedicated himself to researching chimeras in order to obtain the power of a dragon like Theo. However, his research was discovered by Theo. So the boy set fire to his palace, destroyed all traces of his black magic deeds, and then disappeared, leaving Theo branded as a tyrant for falsely accusing his younger brother and then putting him into eternal sleep. The girl understands that if you think about it, then Eckhart is also a little sorry because anyone who grows up in such an environment will have a blackened heart, and although it is still wrong to plunge people into eternal sleep, but when she was Yu Hie's son, yes, she also had an inferiority complex, but now it's different. The lady's brother says that this is because the emperor has to pay close attention to even the smallest details of the empire. He hopes that from now on he will be able to see His Majesty often and talk to him personally. This can be interpreted as meaning that from now on he will be unexpectedly visiting the emperor, so he needs to behave decently. The blonde says that he is touched by Ludwig's devoted heart. The boy replies that he is grateful that His Majesty recognizes his devotion. He also states that it is already quite late, so he will take his little sister and they will go home. The main character also says goodbye to His Majesty, and she also understands that she will need to console Theo tomorrow. As she heads off in the carriage with her brother, Ludwig asks what he told her about what to do if a strange man tries to touch her. Judith replies that she should smash his face with magic, but her brother replies that no, and that it would be much safer to grab him from below and yank him sharply. And taking advantage of the fact that he was paralyzed from pain, she hit him in the face with her elbow with all her might. Judith understands that she is somehow anxious, and the guy is not going to come for her every day like this. A short time later, the man turns to his daughter and states that he and his older brothers have decided that from now on, they will pick her up from the imperial palace every day at 5 p.m. Judith realizes that she knew something like this was in store for her and then agrees with her father. The lady understands that she is of course glad that, unlike in her past life, her family will take care of her, but nevertheless they are overprotective of her. Judith realizes that this is just her stress building up, and she wants to have a sip of this after dinner. A little while later, the coachman tells the lady that if she is caught on a secret foray, the master will be furious, so she should quickly buy what she wanted and return. The girl replies that everything is fine, because even if she is caught, she will take full responsibility. After the lady thanked the coachman, she went into the store. The girl saw that limited edition chocolate buns were available. After all, she was worried that at such a late hour everything would already be sold out, so she was extremely lucky. As the girl heads to the checkout, she notices someone else entering the store, after which this guy starts looking at her, and the main character thinks why he is staring at her like that, and is this really the first time he sees a beautiful girl? At this point, the brunette approaches the cash register and claims that he will pay for the bun that is lying on the girl's tray. And the main character wonders why he is buying her this loaf of bread. Do they really know each other? After which the girl thanks him and claims that there was no need for it. Judith also wonders if he is doing this because he fell in love with her at first sight. Ludi also says that she is grateful for his care, but at that moment the guy takes the package, and he turns around, leaving the girl confused. The main character runs out into the street and screams at him. She also claims that she grabbed the bun first. The girl also thinks that he should give her back her bun. When she drags this guy into tears, his hood falls off and the girl realizes that he is handsome. At this point, the brunette asks what happened to her that she took the bun first. And as she grabbed it, she could therefore lose priority from the one who paid first. Judith realizes that although he is handsome, he is a disgusting person, after which the girl says that there is such a thing as politeness, but the brunette wonders if it isn't more rude to grab a person at random and take out your anger on him. And if she really wants to get the package back, then let her try to do it differently, so that he would want to give it to her. The girl's patience is broken after this, and she thinks, what kind of crazy idiot is this? She also screams how it is even possible to say such vulgar things out loud. The girl hits him on the leg, but at that very moment he feels pain only in his leg and wonders if he really inserted an iron rod into his leg. When the lady turns around, she shouts at him to eat this chocolate bun to his heart's content and watch out so as not to choke. Judith understands that she needs to run away before this man gets angry. The guy at this time just sighs and says that this is what the emperor's woman is like. Then he goes into one of the establishments, and the worker asks if Mr. Eckhart is back. The guy replies that yes, after which the worker offers to give him a raincoat and asks if everything went according to plan. The brunette replies that no, and he thought that we were talking about a stupid woman who would be easy to control, but she turned out to be a tough nut to crack. But now it is clear that she will have to be persuaded in another way, so let the worker call Verdi, to which he agrees. But at that very moment, the worker turns to the gentleman again and claims that there was a bag with something in the pocket of his robe. He also asks what to do with it, and the guy replies that there is no need for it now, so he should just throw it away. A little while later, the main character is sitting in the emperor's office and reading something. The guy, while working, glances at her and then comes to the conclusion that he does not want to work. The more he thinks about this girl, the harder it becomes for him to work, after which the blondes completely rise from their seats. The main character closes her book and wonders if he is finished yet. The emperor replies that he is not yet and is just a little tired. Judith says that if he is tired, then how about lying down and resting a little, because working hard is certainly good, but it's not right to overexert yourself. The guy asks if she really thinks that way about the main character, and he understands that if Theo goes on vacation, she will be much more comfortable. Well, a little while later, when the guy is lying on her lap, the girl thinks about what kind of comfort she was hoping for. Judith asks His Majesty if he is really comfortable, to which he replies that he is. The girl wonders if he is going to start flirting with her like that, but when she looks at the emperor's face, she realizes that today he really does look tired. After which the main character turns to His Majesty and asks if he really didn't sleep well today. The guy replies that yes, the lady is wondering why and whether he really didn't sleep a wink because of work, because if so, then she won't bother him and will leave right now. Well, the emperor is silent for a while and then asks what clothes he should wear to meet her, how to behave to please, and what food the lady will eat with pleasure, and also listening to him how charmingly she will smile. While he was imagining all this, it was already morning. He also tells Judith that he wants to do so much with her that the night is not enough to list everything. The main character at this time thinks whether this man has never been in a relationship with anyone before. Then the girl suggests trying to do everything in turn. After all, she also wants to do a lot of things with him. Well, at that very moment, the guy just brings her hand to his face, and kissing her, he claims that he wants to hug Judith. The girl wonders why he suddenly turned the conversation in this direction, and she also cries out that she still needs time to prepare herself mentally. The blonde asks what she is talking about, and the lady replies that he is tired, so let him take a little nap, and then they will continue talking about her. Theo replies that he doesn't want to sleep anymore, but the main character screams that he needs to sleep because lack of sleep has a bad effect on the body. After which the guy finally agrees, and the girl understands that she can't say that she doesn't like Theo. After all, he has a beautiful appearance and body, and to her great surprise, a sincere nature, and it is obvious to the naked eye that he is interested in her. Well, the lady still doesn't understand why he likes her so much because they've known each other for a very short time. Judith realizes that if he is obsessed with her because she is his one woman, then she does not like it at all. Of course, at first, she was forced to date the Emperor, and she knows that they will immediately break up as soon as Serena appears on the horizon. But while they are together, she would like to build a normal, romantic relationship. And even when Theo one day falls in love with Serena, the lady hopes that it will not be too greedy on her part to count on him not hating her enough to plunge her into eternal sleep. Well then, the main character notices something on his neck and realizes that it looks like a ring. The girl wonders if in the original work he carried something like this with him. Judith thinks that she wants to take a closer look, and this guy is definitely sleeping. When she moves her hand in front of him, she understands that he is not waking up, and when she stretches the button, she understands that she has succeeded. But at that very moment, the Emperor opens his eyes, and the girl immediately removes her hands, and also understands that it seems he thought that she was secretly trying to separate him. His Majesty immediately pushes the girl under himself and asks if this means that she has prepared herself mentally. Well, after this, the main character pushes the Emperor away and says that she doesn't want to. And in general, she doesn't want a relationship in which they will desire each other only physically. The blonde guy claims that he likes everything about you, lady, but she screams that she only likes his body. Then the girl also notices that while she was pushing the Emperor away, she placed her hands on his chest and understands that her hands have failed her again. Judith states that in general, she wants to get to know His Majesty a little more, so she suggests moving slowly. Well, the guy turns to Judith and claims that she can simply say that she doesn't want it, and that will be enough for her. After all, if she doesn't want to, then he won't do anything, after which he keeps apologizing for getting ahead of himself. The guy holds out his hand and asks if Lady Judith will allow her to hold her hand. The main character only smiles at this and notes that he can also hold her hand as much as he wants. The guy then turns to the lady and states that, frankly speaking, he has one more request for her. The main character is interested in what after which her interlocutor suggests going on a picnic together. A little while later, the girl is heading out in a carriage and is thinking about hunting competitions. From year to year, she skipped them so as not to cross paths with Theo, but now such a need has disappeared, so maybe it's worth visiting them once. The lady's father turns to her and asks if the Emperor forced her to do something against her will, and although he always says this, he will repeat that if she does not want to meet with this bastard, then she does not need to force herself. Judith says he didn't do anything like that, and she's not forcing herself to date him. The girl understands that, contrary to her expectations, he always listens to her opinion. After which she even claims that she and His Majesty still don't know each other well, so she wanted to spend time with him to get to know him better. So the father has nothing to worry about, and if something happens, she promises that he will be the first to know about it, and then he can scold His Majesty well. The man understands that it means he worried in vain, and even if he doesn't like the Emperor, his daughter made her own decision. Therefore, as her father, he must respect this choice. The man says that he is sure that the lady will be able to figure it out herself, and he keeps forgetting that his daughter is already quite big. Judith replies that she understands perfectly well that he is worried about her. The man wonders when the girl learned to be so attentive to her father's feelings, and it seems he finally knows what his father-in-law felt when he married Layla. The man also thinks about his wife and realizes that their daughter has already grown up. A short time later, there was a hunting competition at the Imperial Palace. This was an event aimed at maintaining harmony between the imperial family and the nobles. The winner of this competition was the one who caught the most game in a day. Before the start of the competition, each woman gives one of the participants a kiss, thereby wishing him good luck and a safe return. And men hunting collect beautiful bouquets and then give them to the woman they like, confessing their feelings, so this May event secretly enjoys great popularity among young men and women. Judith realizes that the fact that Theo asked her to attend this event with him speaks volumes, that he wants to give her flowers and this is some kind of public announcement about it. That they are dating, therefore, makes her a little awkward, and besides, she will have to kiss him. The girl is embarrassed and realizes that all this time she was so full of thoughts about a safe break with the Emperor that something like this seems like something out of science fiction to her. In her past life, she fell into eternal sleep without ever having had a romance, so basically, Theo should be considered her first boyfriend. This makes the girl even more embarrassed and understands that then she turns out to be the same beloved of the Emperor that she has read so many times in novels. Judith realizes that she cannot calm down, but tomorrow she will have to see Theo again. The girl also thinks that maybe she should go out into the city for a while and get some fresh air. After all, dessert is the best way to calm a raging heart. When a lady enters a pastry shop, she is surprised because there are so many chocolate buns left today. And although last time she lost her last bun to that damn brunette today, she will buy everything. She will buy it with interest and then share it with family members, as well as with married servants. But when the main character drags a full bag of these buns who thinks really she was too greedy, the lady also realizes that she needs another hand to open the carriage door. She also turns around and wonders if the coachman usually stands in front of the carriage and if he really sits on the box, after which the girl turns to him and asks him to open the door. At the same moment, someone else opens the lady's door and the girl thanks him, but he replies that he is not worth the thanks and also states that he will go. When the main character gets into the carriage and heads home, she wonders why the carriage is shaking so much today and whether they are really traveling on some other road. But when the carriage stops, the girl wonders if they have already arrived at the castle and wonders why they got there so quickly today. But the man who opens the carriage door claims that if the lady means that coachman, then he is now locked somewhere in a warehouse. This guy gets into the carriage and apologizes to the lady for not being the one she was looking for. Judith realizes that this is the guy who helped her open the door earlier. The girl wonders if he really planned to kidnap her from the very beginning, after which she asks what his goal is and if he really needs money. The guy starts using magic and says that the lady doesn't need to know what their circumstances are. So let her keep quiet for a while, but when the spell flies into the lady, it simply dissipates. When the guy sees this, he is shocked and screams, "How did this happen?" because the spell definitely reached its target. Judith realizes that she doesn't know why she was kidnapped, but while this man is confused, this is her chance. The girl thinks that she needs to calm down and do everything as her older brother taught her. Without a doubt, this spell is perfect for this situation. A little while ago, Ludwig asked if his sisters really needed a spell that could defeat an enemy with one blow. Judith replied that yes, she needed something that didn't require much effort and could be learned quickly. Ludwig replied that if she wasn't a genius like him, she would never be able to use it. The main character then almost cried and said that she didn't have even a drop of his talent, and the guy told her to wait because one way or another she really needed to master the self-defense spell to protect herself, and she doesn't need some kind of strong spell, but something that can quickly knock the enemy off track. Therefore, he claimed that the lightning spell was ideal for this purpose. Judith realizes that since the lightning spell has such a high speed of movement, it is difficult to aim. The man who wanted to kidnap the girl asks what she has in her hand and if it is really what he thinks it is, and the lady understands that when the enemy is close you need to attack him quickly. After which the girl does just that, and when the guy falls, the lady understands that while he is immobilized, she needs to run. However, when she gets out of the carriage, she wonders where she is. At that moment, someone covers her mouth. It turns out that this is the guy who was going to kidnap her, and he claims that he didn't expect that the lady also possesses magic. After all, it even hurt him a little. The guy tells the girl not to struggle because if she tries to use magic again, then she should know that he will immediately break her wrist before she has time to do anything. But the main character thinks that she doesn't want to, and in her thoughts, she asks her dad and brothers for help. At that very moment, someone hits this guy in the face, and while he grabs it, the main character cuts it out of his hands. But when she goes further, she bumps into someone. It turns out to be the same guy who took the last bun, and he asks if the girl was hurt. Judith asks if it's a bun. The brunette just snorts, and he wonders if seeing a person is really the only thing she can say. Judith also wonders how he ended up there, and then turns to her captor and says that what is more important is what happened to him there. The brunette replies that he lost consciousness, so she can leave him alone, because he will figure out what is what when he opens his eyes. Well then, he turns to the lady again and says that maybe she is unhappy that he did not put him into eternal sleep, to which the girl replies that nothing of the sort. The main character also thanks him for his help and asks for a reward if he comes to Pellegrim Castle. The guy notices her shaking hands and wonders if she can find her way home. The main character asks him what he's talking about, after which the guy tells her to follow him, because no matter how you look at it, she doesn't know where to go. The main character wonders why he suddenly became so kind, and she would like to refuse, but being there alone is unsettling. Judith says that if he tries to take her to a strange place, she will scream, but the brunette tells her not to try to catch him. If he had any plans for her, he would have already done it. The main character understands that he is right here, and she should not forget that he helped. And first of all, it can be safely said that he is not hostile towards her. A little while later, the main character thanks him for agreeing to take her to the castle, and in fact, she was a little scared, and also, to be honest, she is still angry because of what happened last time. But nevertheless, the guy helped her, so if he comes to the castle tomorrow, he will definitely receive a generous reward. However, the brunette says that it is not necessary and he will live without it. Judith asks if this is really true and claims that she cannot stand to remain in debt for the help received. The brunette says again that it is not necessary, and claims that if she is so grateful, then shouldn't she visit him herself and not tell him to come? Judith realizes that even though he makes her angry, he says the right things, and she is speechless. Then the girl screams for him to give her his address, and she will come to him with a chest of gold coins. But the guy replies that he doesn't like that either. Judith says irritably, "That's fine, and anyway, he's the one who will regret refusing." The guy at this time only says that as a reward, the girl should give him a bun from that store at their next meeting. Judith thinks about this man and realizes that he seems to really like those chocolate buns. At this time, the guy says that the lady can go further herself. Their main character understands that they have already reached the main gate. The brunette claims that the Duke's daughter did not think that he would look for a carriage for her to take her to the very doors of the castle. Judith cries out that she herself can walk without any carriage, so he cannot worry and calmly go home. The girl is also angry and thinks what an idiot she was to think that he could be a good person. Well, then the lady turns around and tells him to wait and at least say his name. However, there is no one else in the place where the brunette stood. The girl understands that he left so quickly, and she didn't even say goodbye to him properly. Then at the castle doors, the lady met her father and his brothers, and the missing Jason was found in one of the warehouses. Theo searched the entire empire to find the culprit of the kidnapping, but his search was unsuccessful. Thanks to her serious persuasion, Jason managed to avoid being fired, but his salary was cut, and she was temporarily placed under house arrest. Judith realizes that she was very ashamed in front of the coachman, whom she had dragged along with her by force. And since she is under house arrest, that means she won't be able to go to this pastry shop for some time, and she wonders if this person will be waiting for her. At this time, the brunette heads through the basement and then approaches one animal, and also strokes him. At the same moment, someone turns to Mr. Eichart and claims that as he ordered, he dealt with the hired thug. Damn, he says he did a great job, and with his help they managed to avoid unnecessary problems. The servant says that the master is flattering him and he was only following his plan, but that woman, as he said, has the power to nullify magic. And it turns out that such a force really does exist. Brunet claims that to be precise, it is not annulment but absorption. The lady can convert the enemy's attack into her own mana, and this is the power of the now extinct demonic race. The guy understands that the rumor that the Duke and his eldest son inherited the power of the demon clan and have superpowers is common knowledge, but it turns out that even his daughter inherited demonic power but from another clan, after which the brunette says that the servant should continue to watch this woman and also be careful not to be caught by the tale, to which he agrees. The guy understands that the Emperor's beloved is a woman who possesses magical powers that no one can surpass. He also says that Brother Theo has something that he so desperately wants to get. A little while later, the main character realizes that the weather outside is clear and there is a refreshing breeze, and she can come out into the world after such a long time. At that moment, someone turns to Judith. When the main character turns around, she sees His Majesty in front of her. Judith understands that she can go crazy because he is unrealistically handsome today. The girl wonders why he arrived so early and why usually members of the imperial family are the last to arrive. But the blonde only kisses her hand and claims that he wanted to see her as soon as possible. The main character is embarrassed by this, and her brother and father look menacingly at these two. Judith realizes that His Majesty seems to be creating an extremely awkward situation. A little while later, the main character notices how the ladies kiss those who are going hunting. The main character turns to her little brother and claims that she heard that the members of the night squad must leave earlier than the other participants, so she wants him to be careful. Chiron says that, and who knows what might happen, so let the lady not go far from the camp either. At the same moment, the main character hears her father clear his throat and thinks, oh, these men in her house. The lady also kisses her dad on the cheek and tells him not to get too involved, to which he agrees. The main character also thinks who Theo is with, but when she looks at him, she wonders if he is alone. The girl realizes that in fact all members of Theo's family have already plunged into eternal sleep, after which the main character turns to His Majesty, and when he turns around and also turns to her, the lady shows him to be quiet. Theo approaches her and asks what happened, and the main character whispers and asks if there is anyone nearby. After the guy answers that yes, the main character says that she wants to give him her blessing for good luck. The guy at this time understands that the blessing is a touch of the lips, which means it is a kiss, after which he keeps telling her that she doesn't have to force herself just because everyone else does it. Well, the main character just stands on her toes and kisses him on the cheek, and also says that she didn't force herself. The guy then runs his finger across her lip and claims he didn't know she had already given permission for them. The main character turns to His Majesty in surprise. Well, when he reaches out to her, the lady only screams that, whatever. And then she claims that it was about a blessing for good luck, so he shouldn't misunderstand it. Judith realizes that she just kissed him on the cheek, but wonders why he reacted like that, because now he stands like a statue and looks at her with a lost look. The main character also says that she will leave him now. But the guy tells her to wait, after which he kisses her on the forehead and claims that he too simply blessed her with good luck. So let the lady not misunderstand him. When the emperor leaves, he realizes that he has kept himself under control very well. A short time later, the hunting competition begins, and the aristocrats ask who will win this year. One of them wonders if it is not obvious that it will be His Majesty, since this year he came with his beloved. The main character thinks that all these glances are directed at her, and it seems that everyone is interested in knowing their story. And maybe she should say that she's going to the restroom and then run away. At that moment, someone comes up to the girl and says that she's glad to meet her. This girl claims to be the daughter of the Marquis of Lyon named Isabella. The main character wonders if this girl really met Judith there for the first time. This lady is the villain's assistant, and in the original, Isabella likes Theo, so she was in charge of Judith with all her heart. But Judith cleverly plays on her weaknesses to set up Serena, and then the fair Serena saves Isabella when she is in danger, and the girl touched by this becomes Serena's faithful friend. Judith realizes that, in a word, it looks like she will stab her in the back, after which the main character greets Miss Lyon and also says that she is pleased to meet her. Judith understands that there is nothing good in this relationship, so it is better to stay away from her, but the lady claims that she was looking forward to meeting the mistress, and if she does not mind, then can she send an invitation to the tea party she is organizing? Judith says that of course, and if nothing serious happens, she will definitely attend the tea party, but in her thoughts, the main character begs her not to send her. A little while later, they are sitting together, and Isabella asks the lady what treats she brought with her, because she made flower tea. Judith wonders why she is sitting right next to her. At this time, Isabella hands Lady Pellegrim tea and tells her to try this flower tea, which can only be obtained in the jungles of the southwestern part of the continent. The main character thanks her, but at that very moment the girl drops the cup on her dress. Judith is surprised by this, and the other aristocrats ask if Miss Isabella is okay because the tea is very hot. The main character realizes that it seems like this girl just dropped the cup from her hands on purpose, and Isabella replies that everything is fine. And she thinks that Miss Judith's hand was just too wet. The main character looking at this girl, she wonders if she really wants to make her look guilty, but then she realizes that she needs to restrain herself because she can't mess with either the villain or her girlfriend, so she just needs to smile quietly like a lady. Well, then the main character thinks why on earth she needs to hold back, and also tells Miss Isabella that what she just did was truly childish. The lady with red hair is surprised by this and wonders what she means. But at that very moment someone addresses Judith, and when the aristocrats turn towards the person who said that name, then they immediately rise and greet the never-fading son of the Valdemar Empire. The blonde claims that he came for Judith because she promised to go on a picnic with him. The The main character wonders if by picnic he meant going to a hunting competition together, and the guy replies that during the hunt he won't have time to be with her, so it can't be called a picnic. He would like to show her something, so he suggests that they go quickly, but the main character tells His Majesty to wait and understands that even if it is his will, it is too tactless to just up and leave his place. Judith apologizes to the other ladies and claims that she has to leave them. One of them replies that it is all right because they can get together just the same another time. Another one says that, of course, and the latter does not worry about anything and also goes. They also mentally ask the lady to leave there before His Majesty's mood gets even worse, after which the main character leaves with His Majesty, and one of the ladies says that no matter how you look at it, it seems that Lady Peregrine and His Majesty are really dating, and this is the first time she has seen His Majesty look at someone with such tenderness, so perhaps they will soon hear news about the upcoming wedding. The main character is heading somewhere with His Majesty at this time and thinks that the main character's buffs are impressive. After all, it seems that everyone is terribly afraid of him, and although Isabella looked pathetic, she was the first to start pestering her, so it serves her right. Although when she thinks about this guy being a tyrant, she herself gets scared. However, the fact that Theo is on her side is very calming. The girl at this time wonders if it is true that he can spend time with her now, because she heard that the purpose of this competition is to establish contact between the imperial family and the nobility. The guy tells her not to worry because he is actively involved in this now. Judith thinks that he is at it again, and with every breath she takes he will come up with some new trick. The girl also wonders where is what he wanted to show her, and the guy replies that they are almost there, so let the girl look there. When the main character looks in that direction, she sees a beautiful field of flowers and asks if such a place really exists there. The blonde asks her if she likes it, and the girl replies that it's very beautiful there. Theo claims that he originally intended to pick a few buds, but since it was supposed to be a gift for her, he felt that a couple of flowers would not be enough. Judith asks if this entire flower field belongs to her. The guy smiles and says that if she wants, then not only this field but the entire empire will belong to her. Judith is surprised by this and understands that when someone reaches the emperor class, the scale of his confession of feelings becomes a completely different level. But for her this is somewhat burdensome, and therefore the lady claims that these flowers are enough for her. The blonde then claims that his beloved does not know how to be greedy, and the main character understands that everything is not so, and she simply should not get involved with him. Before he starts talking about marriage again, he needs to change the subject, and the lady thinks if there is something that could distract his attention, after which the girl even notices the ring on his neck. Judith realizes that this is the pendant that she tried to examine last time, and wonders if Theo is wearing it today too, so the lady wonders if he carries it with him every day. The lady turns to His Majesty and asks if she can look at the pendant that is currently hanging around his neck. The lady says that there is nothing special about it, and it just reminds her of something she lost as a child, after which the blonde agrees and also tells her to take this pendant. When the main character looks at him, she realizes that he looks exactly the same, and even the scratches are the same as on the ring that she lost in childhood. But the girl wonders why he carries something like that with him, after which she asks His Majesty where he found this ring. Judith understands that she does not want to imagine herself as something like that, but were they really acquainted before? At this time, the blonde is wondering if it's true that she doesn't remember anything, and she herself gave him this ring 14 years ago. Judith is then shocked to realize that she can hear the original plot coming apart at the seams. She also wonders if he's saying that they met as children, and she thought Theo was very friendly considering it was her first time meeting him, but she doesn't remember ever seeing him before. That's why the main character asks if he's sure that she personally gave him this ring, and if she really just took it from somewhere and gave it to him, to which the guy replies that no, and the lady gave him this ring and also proposed marriage. Judith is shocked to think that this is a disaster, and wonders what the hell she established 14 years ago, because she seemed to have destroyed the original plot. But she thinks that this doesn't look like a lie, and begins to wonder how this happened. The guy claims that he believed her words and continued to wait, but apparently he was easily erased from her memory. The guy also claims that before going to bed he always thought about her and wondered if everything was okay in her cozy home, and if she had suffered much because of him. Attending boring banquets every day, he hoped to meet her again and continued to look for her. But let the lady not think that he will refuse the marriage proposal just because she says that she does not remember anything, and as he already said earlier, he does not intend to let her go. The main character understands that the reason why Theo still carefully kept this ring is because he was looking for her. Not Serena or Judith from the original story, but one single girl whose name and status were unknown to him. The girl then thinks how she will see her happiness has no limits, and then the lady tells him to keep this ring with him until her memories return. As a sign of that, she proposed marriage to him, and the girl understands that although she knows that someday his affection may change, but she wants to continue believing in Theo. A little while later, the two return, and the main characters notice the servants. And also the expression on his brother's face shows that something seems to have happened. The lady also tells His Majesty to go and she will return to the circle of young ladies because she is really fine. The guy then apologizes and claims that apparently he was absent for a long time. And yet, he is the happiest man in the empire who has understanding beloved. Therefore he thanks Judith and tells her to be careful, and when there is time, let her think about him a little. After which the guy leaves and the main character just remains silent. When she returns to the lady, she understands that at first it was somewhat burdensome, but now such actions look cute. Well then, the main character notices someone on the side of the hunting grounds and wonders if the lady has lost her way. But then the girl realizes that this dress is familiar to her and understands that this is Isabella. The lady with red hair is thinking at this time how this girl who doesn't understand anything can interfere. And she also walks with His Majesty with her head held high, after which the girl kicks a pebble and thinks how everything annoys her. But this stone flies into one of the monsters and it starts to growl. Isabella wonders what that sound was. But when he turns around, he sees in front of him a terrible monster with 3 heads. The lady immediately starts screaming. Well, at the same moment, the main character screams for Miss Isabella to step aside. The girl uses her powers, after which the monster begins to burn. Isabella only looks at him in horror. After the monster is reduced to a charred body, the main character approaches Isabella and asks if she is okay. The girl turns around and asks if it is Lady Peregrine. Judith realizes that she cast the spell in a hurry, not being sure that it would hit the target, but Isabella was in danger. And it seems that the special training conducted by Brother Ludwig was not in vain. The girl also turns to the lady and asks if she can get up, because since he was knocked out, she needs to run quickly. But at that very moment, other monsters come there, and the girl wonders if he really wasn't alone. Judith asks where the hell the chimeras came from. She also realizes that there is no way the two of them can escape. After which the main character turns to Miss Isabella and asks if she is able to run because she will use magic and draw all the attention of the monsters to herself, and she must run away from there at her signal. The lady with red hair then screams, is Judith telling her to leave alone, after which she says that without a doubt the monsters will follow her. The main character says that she knows that the lady is scared, but now is not the time to panic. She also notices something strange and wonders if Miss Isabella is hiding something from her. The lady with red hair replies that she simply thought that if she were in danger, His Majesty the Emperor would come to her aid. That's why she deliberately spilled tea on her dress, which has a hallucinogenic effect on wild animals. But she swears that she knows nothing about these monsters. The main character then screams, asking if the lady is definitely not an idiot. And how could one think of such a dangerous step since something could go wrong at any moment? At the same moment, the remaining monsters approach them, and the main character realizes that now is not the time to scold the girl. After which she asks her to forgive her and tears off a piece of her dress. She claims that if she has this piece of fabric, the chimeras will not follow Miss Isabella. And as soon as she gets out of there safely, let her immediately call the knights. But the lady with red hair wonders what about Lady Peregrine if she has this fabric. The main character only smiles after this and tells Isabella not to worry because after all, her teacher was her brother Ludwig, who is the current ruler of the Magic Tower. The girl also understands that although only her brother has a real talent for magic. At that moment, the monsters approach and the main character screams for the lady to run away quickly, to which she agrees. At this time, the main character begins to use barrier magic, and His Majesty begins to sense that something is wrong. A little while later, the girl is already thinking how much time has passed since Isabella left. She also understands that the protective barrier uses a lot of mana, and she won't last long there. Judith wonders if this girl will really call the knights, and what if she just leaves her to fall into eternal sleep, if her mana runs out before someone comes to her aid. And the main character wonders if she will really fall into eternal sleep like this. Until now, she was only worried about the ending, as in the original work where she falls into eternal sleep at the hands of the Emperor. But she never thought that she could end her life like this. Judith wonders if Theo will remember her if she is gone. Or like in the original, he will meet Serena and live happily ever after with her. The girl realizes that she no longer has the mana to maintain the barrier after which she weakens, but she understands that she does not want to fall into eternal sleep in such a place. When the monster is about to approach her, suddenly 3 arrows fly in front of him, and someone addresses Judith. When the main character turns around, she wonders if it's Theo. The guy is casting some kind of spell at this time, after which a sword appears in his hands and he cuts down the monsters with it. The main character wonders if this is the power of the imperial family that Theo possesses. The guy at this time turns to Judith and asks if she is hurt. The main character turns to His Majesty. But the guy just hugs her and also says that she should always think about herself first and then about others. And does she know how worried he gets every time she does that? Judith notices the slight tremor in his fingertips and the way his voice seems ready to break at any moment, holding her tightly in an embrace that made it clear that he was more afraid than she was. The main character apologizes for making him worry and understands that Theo came to her, but not to plunge her into eternal sleep, but to save her. A little while later, the two are already back. The young lady's father and brother immediately run up to her. The Duke thanks His Majesty for returning his daughter safe and sound. The blonde claims that there are no external injuries, but she must be very scared, so he will order the imperial physician to examine her. The guy also turns to the lady's brother, and when he responds, the blonde tells the guy to take the knights and find out how the chimeras got there. A short time later, the Emperor tells him to report that the man claims that traces have been found that the chimeras have entered this place from areas outside the hunting grounds, and it seems that the chimera that was running nearby was attracted there by the scent of the Raxus flower. As a result of the investigation, the flower was found in the tea carried by Lady Lyon. Isabella is only scared by this, and the blonde claims that the flowers of the Raxus have a hallucinogenic effect that drives monsters and wild animals crazy. And their so dangerous flower lady prepared tea and brought it there. The Emperor also turns to the Marquis and asks if he knows anything about it. The man replies that he is very sorry, but he believes that someone was plotting to harm his humble servant's daughter, and isn't she the one who was attacked by the monsters? If His Majesty grants permission, he would like to put his family's honor at stake and personally find out who was behind the attempt to harm his daughter. After this, the blonde is silent, and then the main character takes his hand as if asking him not to be angry, after which the guy claims that he gives his permission for this. A little while later, the Marquis is alone with his daughter. He wonders if this is her prank, and when the lady tries to justify herself, then her father cries out that jokes also have acceptable limits, and he wonders when the girl will grow up. Her childish behavior almost ruined her younger brother's future, and not only can she not help, but she also does everything to fall into the Emperor's disfavor. So he will take care of it, and she just has to keep her mouth shut, to which the girl agrees. And when the man leaves the tent, he says, "What a stupid girl she is." Isabella is trying not to cry at this time, but at that very moment someone else enters the tent. It turns out to be Judith, and she asks if the lady would mind talking a little about what happened earlier. The lady with red hair wonders why Lady Pellerim came there, and is she really going to interrogate her? Well, the main character is just wondering if she is okay and if she is hurt. Isabella asks what she means, and Judith replies that she heard from her brother that the lady's clothes and shoes were in terrible condition. She ran with all her might to call the knights, so the main character thanks her and claims that thanks to her, she managed to survive. The lady with red hair does not even know what to answer and asserts. As for her, she is also very grateful to the lady. Judith then hears someone calling her and claims that she is being called, so she is forced to leave Miss Isabella. But the girl also claims that today was a hard day, so let the miss go home and have a good rest. And let him never again start something so dangerous that the girl agrees to it. A little while later, the Duke tells his daughter that it is already getting dark, so he suggests that they return home, but at the same moment the Emperor tells the lady to wait and takes her hand. He claims that he will accompany her to the carriage. When he escorts the lady to the carriage, the two say goodbye. The blonde wishes her good night and also tells Bones to have sweet dreams. But when the carriage leaves, he stops smiling and turns around to head towards the tents. Theo approaches the other knights and asks if they have found out exactly where the chimeras infiltrated. One of them tells His Majesty that they found traces of experiments with black magic near the northwestern border of the hunting grounds, and the chimeras seem to have escaped from there. The guy asks what about the magicians who conducted the experiments, and his interlocutor replies that it looks like they left that place a long time ago. There is a suggestion that after they left, some hungry chimeras went down in search of food. All the remaining chimeras were destroyed and their bodies were burned. The blonde says that it is clear and they did a great job. Theo also considers experimenting with black magic, after which he turns to Chiron and asks Togo to try to find Icart. The young lady's brother wonders if His Majesty really assumes that the second prince is alive. The guy replies that, and 5 years ago it was confirmed that he was heading to the Principality of Arsel through western Ilkist. Recently there have been many reports of evidence of black magic experiments being discovered. With such a scale, there must certainly be someone who will lead all these magicians, and if he has again begun to gather supporters around him, then he cannot sit idly by. The blonde understands that until the very end, he hoped that his brother had run away to live peacefully, forgetting about the imperial family. And Chiron wonders what His Majesty plans to do if it is confirmed that the second prince is behind this. The guy at this time remembers how the brunette with tears in his eyes and all in red liquid begged his brother to put him into eternal sleep. So now Theo claims that this time he will have to do just that. The main character is in bed at this time and her father is watching her. At the same moment, the image of a lady bursts into the room, and he asks his father if everything is okay with Judith, and also asks him to explain how monsters ended up at the Imperial House's hunting competition. The man at this time indicates that the guy should be quieter because they could disturb Judith's sleep, so he suggests talking outside. When they sit down for a cup of tea, the Duke states that he thinks it would be better to remove the seal placed on Judith and asks what the guy thinks about this. The boy asks why his father suddenly started talking about this, and the man replies that he has been thinking about it since Judith was kidnapped last time. This happened before they could find a new bodyguard for their baby, but at the same time, no matter how careful they are, you never know what can happen. So she must have the strength so that the lady can protect herself, and he does not want to relive what happened 14 years ago. The guy remembers that on that day, Judith, who had been missing for half a day, was found unconscious. When the magician came to their house, he told his lordship that this child had inherited the abilities of another demonic clan, and it seemed that she was absorbing the magic, touching the body, and turning her into her own mother. The man asked if he was talking about mana absorption, and if that was why his daughter was suffering so much. The mage replied that yes, she had absorbed too much mana, which caused her power surges. That's why Ludwig was attacked, and he has the feeling that the lady perceives everything except her own mana as an enemy. The guy then turned to his teacher and asked if this meant that someone had attacked her since the girl had absorbed a large amount of mana. The man replies that it is likely so, and it was a spell capable of plunging a person into eternal sleep. What shocked the two of them was that the teacher insisted that it was dangerous to leave her in that state anyway. Miss Judith's mana had to be sealed until she was able to control it herself. The Duke wondered if there would be any problems with his daughter's body if they did that. The teacher replied that of course not, and that she would be able to use magic even if only to a small extent. However, the memories of the moment her power surged will also be sealed, so they won't be able to find out who attacked her or why. They decided to seal Judith's mana. A little while later, the main character saw her brother's wounds and asked if he was in a lot of pain, and also how he got hurt. Judith, who came to really didn't remember anything. The boy claimed that he had been too arrogant, so the teacher had beaten him. The bruises and abrasions would heal quickly, so the lady should not worry too much. All members of the family had decided to keep the events of that day a secret. The main character at this time offered to blow on her brother's wounds so that they would not hurt. The choice to save, and all in secret, was made in order to protect Judith. Now Ludwig claims that of course if the seal is removed, Judith will be able to use stronger magic, but he is not sure that she will be able to cope with it on her own. Another brother comes into the room and states that he completely agrees with his father. The man says that he has finally arrived, to which he replies that he has, and claims that Judith was on the verge of falling into eternal sleep today. And if His Majesty had been late even for a second, she would have been torn apart by chimeras. They say that she took this step to save the Marquise's daughter, and this child cannot sit idly by when others are in danger. There is no guarantee that nothing like this will ever happen again, after which Ludwig agrees, and he claims that he will remove the seal from his sister. A little while later, the guy is already using his magic, and the girl's mana is released. Waking up the next day, the main character thinks that she wonders if she feels heaviness in her whole body because she used magic to the limit of her capabilities. She also realizes that there is some noise outside and does not understand what happened. But when she opens the door, she sees His Majesty, who asks if Judith slept well. The main character is shocked, and the guy immediately puts his hand on her face and asks if she got enough sleep. And also, does anything hurt? The girl at this time thinks why the guy is there and is she still sleeping? One of the brothers wonders if the lady was able to get a good night's sleep when His Majesty raised such a fuss. Well, the blonde claims that if the two of them hadn't tried to stop him in every way, there wouldn't have been any noise. Ludwig immediately cries out, where did he see such an older brother who would allow a strange man to enter the room of his sleeping younger sister? Well, the blonde replies that he is not an outsider, and this is clearly too much because if he marries Judith, then will they all become his family? The main character, looking at the faces of her brothers, understands that a conflict is brewing, after which she turns to His Majesty and asserts that it is not proper for them to talk standing up, so first let him come in and sit down in the room. And let the brothers go first to the dining room because as soon as they finish, they can immediately join them. Chiron says that they should go down as soon as possible, and Ludwig screams that if something happens, then let the lady call immediately and also kick this guy where he pointed. When they finally leave, the main character realizes that every time Theo comes, there's such a commotion arises. People turn to His Majesty and tell him not to come for her again. The guy asks why and claims that he came because he was worried. Well, the main character says that if he worries about her, then she will take more nights with her. And coming there like this, he wastes a lot of time, and also he must be very busy solving state issues. Well, then the girl notices that he is smiling and asks what happened. The guy replies that he simply finds her face, when the lady first wakes up, incredibly beautiful. Judith realizes that if you think about it, she hasn't even washed her face yet, which makes her feel even more embarrassed. Theo claims that he said that her face is beautiful and wonders why she covers it with her hands. The main character replies that she feels awkward standing in front of him with an unwashed face, so she would quickly get ready and go downstairs, and he would wait for her in the dining room. But at that very moment, the lady feels something strange, and the blonde immediately screams out whether she is okay. Judith replies that everything is fine. She is just a little dizzy because she used too much mana yesterday, so her stamina is failing. At the same moment, the guy lifts her up in his arms and then screams for the cot to be prepared. After all, they are now heading with Judith to the Imperial Palace, and she must be examined by a doctor as soon as possible. The main character screams for His Highness to wait, and the servants watching as they leave the room are surprised. Judith realizes that she is about to burn with shame. The blonde at this time asks if the carriage is ready. But at that very moment, someone runs after His Majesty and tells him to stop and also asks what he is doing. The guy replies that Judith said that she felt dizzy and that she seemed to be overtired because of what happened yesterday, so he plans to take her to the Imperial Palace and show her to the court physician and also ensure that she gets a good rest. But the Duke cries out that it would be much better for her to stay in the mansion. And then the blonde replies that he will take responsibility for Judith and take care of her so that everyone can calmly do their work. And for his information, this is an order from the Emperor, after which the guy enters the carriage and slams the door. And then he leaves altogether, but then Ludwig remembers something. The man asks his son what happened, and he replies that he forgot to say that he unsealed Judith's magic a few hours later in the Imperial Palace. The blonde sits with papers, after which he decides to look at the main character. Judith then tells His Majesty to stop sneaking glances at her and to concentrate on his work. After this, the guy wants to say something else, but the main character says that she is really okay, and the doctor said that she is absolutely healthy. The Emperor then agrees and goes back to work. Judith realizes that although she told Theo that she was fine, but the lady still does not understand why she feels such heaviness throughout her body and wants to sleep. And maybe what happened yesterday was a lot of stress for her. A little while later, the blonde puts a seal on one of the documents and realizes that he is finally finished. He immediately rises from his seat and happily addresses Judith, but sees that the girl has already fallen asleep. The guy wonders if she fell asleep while she was waiting for him, and that recently she has been constantly nodding off. Today, her condition is clearly not the same as usual, and she did not touch food during lunch, saying that she had no appetite. No serious illness was found, but her stamina is 0, and the lady feels heaviness throughout her body, and she also has no appetite. And so the guy wonders what happened. Judith said it was okay because she was on birth control, but what if it turns out that she is carrying his child under her heart? A little while later, the main character opens her eyes. The blonde man who is working right next to her turns to the lady and asks if she woke up the same way she feels. Judith wonders why she is in bed and whether Theo moved her there while she was sleeping. The girl also apologizes to His Majesty and asks if she dozed off again, but he just needed to wake her up and not wait for her to wake up. The guy claims that everything is fine and she can continue to lie down, and also that she does not need to overexert herself, and it is better for the lady to relax because during such a period she should be especially careful. The main character asks what he is talking about, and the blonde just apologizes and claims that he should have been more careful and not forced her body to experience even the slightest strain. His words may confuse her, but he will do his best to ensure that she does not feel anxious in the future. The girl then tells His Majesty to listen and asks what he is talking about. The guy just tells the girl not to be surprised because now, well, when the guy is about to say that she is carrying their baby under her heart at that very moment, the girl's brother screams from behind the door. He cries out to His Majesty and claims that he knows perfectly well that he is inside, but the clock has already struck again long ago, so he came for his sister. A little while later, the guy enters the room and addresses his sister. He asks if everything was okay with her body today and if she was still suffering from dizziness. The guy also claims that she should be especially careful about her body at the moment. The Emperor understands that after the girl's brother's words, he is finally convinced that Judith is pregnant. Ludwig at this time also claims that he will then take Judith and leave, and the main character understands that they are going to have another squabble. But at the same moment, the blonde says that it's fine and let the guy keep a close eye on Judith and also get her home quickly. And the main character is shocked and wonders what happened to the Emperor. And the blonde just says that the girl should have a good rest as soon as she gets home, and he will answer and sort it out completely. So she cannot worry about anything. The main character agrees and says goodbye to His Majesty. When the blonde is left alone in the room, he sits down at the table and realizes that, as expected, he needs to organize a wedding ceremony as soon as possible. At this time, the main character goes with her brother, and he asks how the girl feels, and also whether she felt tired or nauseous during the day. The girl replies that, except for the fact that she constantly feels sleepy, everything is fine. Ludwig, at this point, says that he was going to tell the lady about it this morning, but this walk completely threw her off track. Judith asks what he was going to tell her, and the guy just offers to sit down somewhere and he will tell her everything. A little while later, they are already sitting on a bench, and the lady's brother tells her to give him her hand for a second. The main character of the attack does. And the young man claims that now she will feel a slight malaise, after which the main character feels her stomach was so twisted that she was about to throw up, and the girl was wondering what it was. The guy at this time says that it is great, and he is done. The young man also apologizes for making her feel uncomfortable, but nevertheless he cast a healing spell so that her condition will improve soon. Judith notices that there is indeed no trace of the former heaviness left in her body, but she wonders what her words about a healing spell mean and whether she really has some kind of ailment. The guy replies that he doesn't even know where to start, and the girl probably knows that her ability is to nullify magic, but in reality her ability is to absorb magic, touching her body, and turn it into her own mana. The more she is attacked, the stronger the ladies become, but at the same time, it is a dangerous ability that can cause a surge of magical power, so they had to seal her talent until recently. However, since the lady was already quite grown up, he considered that she could fully take responsibility for this power, and therefore removed the seal last night. It was because of this that the lady had been feeling unwell all day today, and the mana flow had become unstable and had also affected her body. The main character wonders what he is carrying and why there are so many things that were not in the original work. Judith claims that it is not that she doubts his words, but how is it possible that she is completely unaware of something so significant? And the guy claims that, frankly speaking, along with the mana, they sealed her memories of that day, and that's why she still can't remember what happened when she went missing without power at the age of 6. Judith realizes that it seems like they were at that age when they first met His Majesty, and wonder what the hell happened then. It seems like the original plot has changed a lot since that day, but she has no information. The lady's brother at this time suggests returning home, and it's already late, so father is probably going crazy. But at the same moment, someone else turns to Mr. Ludwig and says that an emergency message has arrived from the magic tower, so he urgently needs to go there. The guy replies that he has to take his sister home, so let him tell them to wait. The main character tells her brother that she is completely fine, so he can go quickly. When the guy is about to object, the girl claims that now she has more bodyguards than before, and she will immediately go home, so there is no need to worry. The young man then agrees to tell her that under no circumstances should she turn away from the path. A little while later, the main character walks through the square and realizes that there are so many people there, and also wonders if there is a fair there. She would really like to see it, but since she gave her word to her brother, she must control herself. Well, by the way, she should at least look into the pastry shop once because she hasn't seen that guy since they parted ways that evening. And what if he thinks that she simply cheated him of his recently due reward? At that very moment, the main character sees some brunette and wonders if this is really that person. Judith immediately screams for the carriage to stop, and when the servant asks the lady what happened, the girl understands that if she does not hurry, she will miss him. The lady also screams that she will be back quickly, so let them wait. One of the knights claims that it is dangerous to go somewhere alone, but at that very moment the girl disappears from sight. At this time, the main character follows the guy and screams for him to wait. Judith thinks that she doesn't know his name, so she can't even call him normally. After which the lady grabs him by the cloak and claims that she told him to stand. Judith realizes that it finally got him, but wonders why this guy has such a fast pace. However, when the brunette turns to the lady and asks if something really happened, the girl is shocked and wonders who it is. She immediately lets the guy go and apologizes and also claims that she confused him with someone else. Judith realizes that this is a completely different person, and the empire of attacks is huge, so they simply could not have accidentally collided like that. If the brother finds out that she got out of the carriage, he will start grumbling again, and before the bodyguard starts to worry, he needs to go back. But at that very moment, someone bumps into the lady, and when he passes by, he tells his sister not to stand there in the middle of the street like she's rooted to the spot. The main character apologizes, but at that very moment, someone tells the guy to wait. And when he is grabbed by the hand, the young man asks what he is saying so that they let him go quickly. But this man says that he feels like he needs to give something back to this woman, and when the main character looks at it, she realizes that it is a bun. Judith asks why it is there, and the young man is still trying to escape from the guy's hands, but the brunette only twists him. And he also says that the street is so crowded if a noble lady in an expensive dress walks alone without an escort. Then she becomes an ideal target for petty thieves, and then the bracelet falls out of the guy's hands. The main character says that this is her bracelet, and also asks when they managed to steal it. Eichart only says that the guy dared to touch the things of a representative of the nobility without a shred of fear and asks if he knows what punishment awaits him for stealing in the empire. But the main character tells him to wait and claims that she is the victim in this incident. Therefore, she thinks that it would be better for her to make a decision about his punishment. The brunette then says that the lady can do as she wishes, and a little while later the main character claims that stealing is a bad thing. She also wonders if the guy knows that even captured children are punished. The young man replies that he knows, but he still needs money. The main character asks why. And the guy replies that his younger sister is sick, so he needs money for medicine, but he does not have the opportunity to find such a large amount of money right now. The main character asks if he is serious and then says, okay, and she will also pay for the medicine instead of him. The young man asks if this is true, but the girl tells him to promise in return that he will never steal again, and asks if he is ready to give his word, to which the young man replies that he does. When he leaves, he thanks his sister and claims that he will never forget the help she gave him. The main character tells him to take good care of his little sister and never forget his promise. The brunette claims he was curious about what she was going to do, asking him to hand over the decision-making powers regarding his punishment to her. He also wonders if the lady really believed that what he said was true, since it was obvious that it was a pre-planned lie, just for such a case. Judith asks if he is worried that she might have been deceived, and it turns out that he knows how to be caring. She also says that he is right, because she cannot know for sure whether this guy lied to her or his wife, but for her, it was not important. Even if he lied, she will be calm because there is no sick child, and so since he has her money, at least today he will not touch other people's things. The lady also wonders if he saw the child's clothes because they were very worn, so most likely the words about him having a hard life are true. Of course, stealing is bad, but she believes that the adults who created this unfair world also bear responsibility for such actions. It may seem hypocritical, but it's all she can do right now. And to be honest, she wants to believe that the kid told the truth. After that, the brunette wants to say something, but at that very moment, someone turns to Mrs. Judith and cries out that she was in such a place, and therefore suggests that they quickly go back. The main character realizes that she has completely forgotten about the bodyguard, and she has serious problems. The guy at this time asks the lady how she could just up and leave, and wonders if she knows how long he was looking for her. The girl apologizes for her claims that she saw a familiar face and decided to hurry. The bodyguards ask if she was with someone. The girl replies that this person had helped her a lot earlier, but when the main character turns around, she realizes that there is no one there anymore. The girl claims that he was just there and understands that this guy disappeared again before she had time to thank him for his help, and they can see him again. The guy understands that she has more security, and now it will be more difficult to get close to the Duke's daughter. A little while ago, one of the servants told the master that as he had ordered the preparations for the test, to duplicate the ability of the Duke's daughter had been completed. All that remains is to get her red liquid, so the guy asks how they can do this. The brunette replied that he is the only one who knows her personally, so when she sees him, she will behave less cautiously. To which the guy with red hair agrees and states that then they are completely counting on him. The dragon's abilities cloned from the emperor have side effects, and to gain full power, the power of the Duke's daughter is needed. But the guy thinks why he helps her and doesn't take what he needs. After that, he starts to feel pain. The young man wonders why he had an attack at just that moment. He also begins to hear someone's voice. This woman claims that she has said more than once that no one can love such an imperfect body. The same applies to that woman, although she treats him as one of her own kind. But will she behave like this even when she finds out who he really is? She also tells the guy to listen to his mother, because she is the only one who thinks about him. After which, the illusion goes away and the guy realizes that the ghost with senile dementia is too talkative. The cycle of attacks becomes shorter, and as expected, he must obtain the ability of the Duke's daughter. And to do this, he needs to get her red liquid. After which the guy is still silent and also thinks how tired he is. At this time in the northern part of the empire in the castle of the Marquis, the maid approaches her ladyship and states that Mr. Lloyd requests an audience and also says that there is an urgent message for her from the imperial palace. The woman says let him come in, and when the man comes in, he apologizes to her ladyship for coming to her in the middle of the night. The woman says that they can do without greetings because she was told that he has an urgent message from the imperial palace. The man replies that yes, and his imperial majesty personally sent it to the lady, so he tried to deliver the message as quickly as possible. The woman then tells him to read it. The man reads that it is a request for the Marchioness Spencer, rulers of the Spencer domain. Vadim wondered if spring had yet arrived in the north, and he needed a couple of cherry trees in bloom for his wedding ceremony. And if there are trees that have not yet blossomed, then let the lady send them right now. The woman asks if this is really necessary for this boy's wedding. and also wonders if the preparation for the wedding ceremony began a long time ago. The guy answers that no, and as far as he knows, he was not interested in women, and it was difficult for his closest associates to even hint about the wedding. But when he is about to continue, the Marquis asks if it is because of his suddenly appeared lover. He began to hastily prepare for the wedding ceremony, and even sent her such an absurd request, after which the woman says that Lloyd has only 10 cherry trees to choose from now. She needs to see with her own eyes what kind of woman has sunk into this boy's heart. A little while later, someone asks if the Marquis is planning to hold a banquet in the capital. The blonde replies that yes, he doesn't know what she's planning, but only girls were invited, and she should also receive an invitation, so let the lady not even open it and just refuse. The main character, in response to this, only remains silent and thinks about Elzette Spencer. She understands that she is the current Marchioness, and also Theo's only cousin on his mother's side. The Marquis family fell on charges of aiding Theo's mother and participating in the poisoning of Icart. All members of the family, with the exception of Elzette, who was 10 years old at the time, and her newborn nephew were put into eternal sleep and let everyone think that the family was now finished. But Elzette thought differently, and having joined the Knights, she and Theo went through all possible battles, earning great glory, thanks to which he became a close associate of the Emperor, gaining a position that no one could surpass within the Empire. This character was respected by the main character of the original, and Elzette also considered the villain Judith an eyesore. So she wonders why she suddenly invited her to the banquet, and she must have heard rumors that she and Theo are dating, and she also decided to check what kind of fruit she is. The blonde claims that if it is difficult for her to refuse, then he can do it for her, and now her health is more important. But the main character tells him to wait, because the Marquise herself is inviting her. And besides, she understands that Elzette is like Theo's closest ally, and even if they avoid meeting now, they will definitely meet in the future. The main character also turns to His Majesty and claims that he has recently continued to worry about her health, and she asks if her brother really told him something, because if that is the case, then now she is completely fine. The blonde guy says that it's okay because she still has 9 months of hardship to go through, so she shouldn't overexert herself. The main character asks what he's talking about, and also asks if His Majesty is really talking about the seal that was placed on her manna. The guy asks what she is saying because he meant their child whom she is now carrying under her heart. The main character is shocked by this and screams, "What is he talking about?" She understands that she could not even imagine that the guy would misunderstand the situation so much. But she kept wondering why he had been acting so suspiciously for several days now. And on top of all that, he kept asking embarrassing questions. Judith wonders which child he's talking about. After all, she has no idea how Theo will behave when Serena appears on the horizon, and now these conversations seem to her like something too far from reality. A little while later, the main character returns to her home, and the butler brings her a letter. He also claims that while the lady was in the imperial palace, she received an invitation from the Marquise. Judith understands that what was supposed to come has come. At this time, Brother Ludwig comes to her and asks if this is really a banquet arranged by the Spencer family, and also asks if it would be better to refuse. The guy claims that the Marquis has a very strained relationship with his brother Chiron. The main character asks if he knows the Marquise, and the guy replies that to say that he knows her means to say nothing. The two dated about 10 years ago, and the main character wonders what he's talking about. The girl asks if this is such an old story and wonders why she didn't know anything about it, to which the guy replies that they didn't even last a week. He just teased his brother as a joke, and the next day he broke up with the Marquise. The young man told Judith that Brother Chiron was very busy, so she could only play with him. Now the guy tells the lady not to stare at him like that because he also didn't know that his brother would just pull such a stunt. But in any case, after this, as soon as she sees her brother, a piercing wind starts to blow, and who knows, maybe she will decide to take out her anger on the girl, so let her be careful. After this, the main character realizes that she has become even more anxious, and no matter how you look at it, she is the reason for the breakup. The girl also wonders whether this installation was added intentionally because Judith is a villain, but she almost fell into eternal sleep during the incident with Isabella. Luei wonders if she will have to go through something like this again, but then she thinks that she should wait. After all, now when she thinks about it, she gets angry to the point of horror. After all, she personally did nothing wrong before the Marquise and is not to blame for it. What ended up in Judith's body, and not that Theo and Chiron are distinguished by some extraordinary features. The girl also thinks, can you call a situation fair when you are hated only because you are originally a villain? A few days later, his residence of the Marquise, the main character realizes that as expected, she is a little nervous about going to the banquet without her brothers. This time, every action she takes will result in an assessment of the Pellegrim family, although she could hide her face as during the masquerade ball. Well then, the lady understands that she shouldn't be a coward, because after all, she's the one who lived in this world for 20 years as a duke's daughter. At the same moment, someone reports that Lady Judith from the Pellegrim ducal family has arrived. The girl says that it is a great honor for her to meet her ladyship, and she thanks the lady for inviting her to this event. The woman claims that this is a banquet where partners are not allowed, so she thought that the lady would not come. She also thanks the girl for accepting her invitation. And the main character smiles and understands that she knows little about Elsette because almost nothing was said about her in the original. And now when she sees it in person, this lady dazzles with her magnificence. And we are talking about a girl who does not even wear a dress at a banquet. Therefore, she does not want to be hated by her even more. The main character seems to be asking her to tell her to call her sister. The blonde at this time is wondering why the lady has been looking at her so intently lately. And is she really surprised that she didn't wear a dress, to which the main character replies that no, and that her outfit suits the lady very well. Yes, she thinks that she is magnificent. Well, and when the woman looks at the lady and is silent, the main character understands that thinking about something completely different, she accidentally misspoke. The blonde also turns to the lady and asks what kind of box is in the hands of the maid standing behind her. Judith replies that this is her little gift for Milady, and she heard that she likes sweets, so she personally prepared it for her. She just doesn't know if she'll like her gift. The woman looking at the cookies says how cute it is, and she sees that she made these cookies with her sincerity. Well, she still wonders why the lady gives her these cookies. The main character is surprised by this, and she wonders if she chose the wrong gift. The girl thought it would be nice to make a good impression at the first meeting, but it turns out that changing the relationship with Judith is not so easy. The main character claims that she just wanted to get along with her. But at that very moment, the woman starts laughing and apologizing, and also says that the lady doesn't need to be so afraid of her. She heard that Theo was crazy about some lady, so she decided to see what kind of sly fox it was, and ended up running into a cute rabbit. The main character asks what she's talking about, after which the woman apologizes for her rude behavior and claims that she invited the lady to the banquet not at all to torture her, and she simply wanted to convince her what kind of person Theo fell in love with. And although there was no need to show any malice, the girl was so nervous that she unconsciously wanted to tease her. The woman also wonders why she was nervous and whether her image is really that scary. Judith claims that her words may be a bit presumptuous, but she was nervous about learning that the lady had a very strained relationship with her brother Chiron. The woman replies that of course it is true that she hates this idiot, but what her brother did and her attitude towards the lady are two different things. She doesn't treat others unfairly because of something like that. The main character is surprised by this, and the woman claims that their conversation has dragged on a bit and that her crazy brothers are not there today, so the lady asks her to enjoy the banquet as much as her heart desires to, which the main character agrees. And when the Marquise leaves, the girl realizes that Elsette is truly an amazing person. She also wonders if her brother is in his right mind, and how could he reject such a girl? At that moment, someone turns to Lady Judith and says that they have met again. When the main character turns to this lady, she realizes that they met at the hunting competition. Judith says that she is glad to see Miss Renee again, and this is their first meeting after the hunting competition. The girl then asks if the lady has already seen Miss Isabella because it seems that she was recently looking for her. The main character replies that no, and she hasn't seen her yet, but she wonders why Isabella was looking for her. At this time, someone else turns to Lady Pellegrim and says that if she doesn't mind, they would like to greet her. The main character then agrees, and the lady who approaches says that she is pleased to meet her, and also her name is Sienna, and she is the eldest daughter of the Earl, and this is her mother. The woman also greets Lady Judith, and the main character tells the Countess that she is glad to meet you. The woman says that when she heard that Miss would be attending the banquet, she wanted to greet her Judith. Meanwhile, notices the girl behind her and wonders why they didn't introduce her. When this lady notices that the main character is looking at her, she just nods. Judith thinks that she has either a shy nature or something else, but for some reason this situation does not give her peace. At this time, one of the ladies asks if they heard that the Marchioness organized a banquet to find a daughter-in-law for the House of Spencer, and Milady Elzet said that she would pass the title of Marquis to her only nephew. One of the ladies at this time asks if she succeeds, she can become a marquise. The main character at this time feels tired and realizes that she was wondering what it would be like to organize a banquet where only women gather. Well, all they talk about is marriage, and even if it is a fantasy world, it is still based on the medieval era, so this kind of conversation is probably inevitable. One of the people at this time turns to the girl and says that she has not said a word and asks if she feels bad. Judith replies that she hasn't been to a banquet for a long time, so she feels a little tired. The girl also changes but also asks if she can leave them first, to which they agree. After the main character goes outside, she realizes that she has finally managed to escape and needs to quickly return home and go to bed. But when the main character goes further, she sees a girl who was not introduced before. Judith wonders if this isn't the youngest daughter of Earl Gorton who stood behind her mother and older sister. The main character wonders why she is alone and where are the other noblewomen. But when you look in another direction, you understand that there is a complete, or and everything becomes clear. This girl is an outcast in her own family, just like she was in her past life. So the main character approaches this girl and asks if she minds if she sits next to her. The girl asks if this is Lady Peregrine, after which she says that of course it is, and asks her to sit down. Judith thanks her but claims that, come to think of it, she still doesn't know the lady's name, so she asks if she can find out what her name is. Her interlocutor replies that her name is Leona. And the main character says that she is pleased to meet Miss, because ever since she saw her she wanted to talk to her. Leona replies that she too would like to share a conversation with Miss Judith, but at that moment someone else addresses Miss Judith. And he says that here she is. When the main character dodges, she realizes that it is Miss Isabella. The lady with red hair wonders why the lady is there and asks if she knows how long she has been looking for her. The girl even sees someone else next to the main character and wonders who it is. Judith says that they should introduce themselves because this is Miss Leona from the family of the Earl of Gorton. The girl rises from her seat and greets Miss Isabella, and also states that it seems that they have already met at another banquet, so she asks if the lady remembers her. The girl replies that she is not sure, although it seems like they have met. And the main character thinks that she knows that the lady does not have good feelings towards her, but she still does not understand why Isabella is so harsh with Leona. The lady with red hair at this time says that it is more important whether Miss Judith knows what it is, after which she holds out the basket and the main character asks if this is chocolate. The girl replies, "The States don't just have chocolate, but chocolate candies with whiskey. And she didn't bring them for the lady personally, but she can give a couple if she wants to try, after all she was in her debt last time." The main character then thanks Miss Isabella and asks if she doesn't mind if Miss Leona tries these candies too. A little while later, the Marquise tries the cookies from the main character, and he asks if these cookies were prepared by her personally. At this time, the maid turns to her ladyship, and he claims that His Majesty has arrived, and he is also waiting for her in the guest room, so she asks how the lady will proceed, to which the woman replies that she will go to him herself. A little while later, she comes to the guy and claims that it seems she did not invite him to the banquet. The blonde man wonders what she's eating and if it's really cookies. The Marquis says he has a diamond eye and wonders if it's not cute. Although one ear is already missing, the guy replies that not really, and the woman asks if he is serious. But these cookies were baked by Judith, which shocks the blonde, after which he takes the cookies from the hands of the Marquise, and also claims that he meant that he doesn't particularly like the way she holds him in her arms. Well, he still wonders why Judith gave him these cookies, and the woman replies that she said she wanted to get along with her. The guy realizes that the cookie he still couldn't get ended up in her hands and wonders where Judith is now. At this time, one of the ladies cries out, "Isn't this too unfair?" After all, she is the daughter of the Marquis of Lyon, but her father only communicates with her younger brother as if he were his own child. He doesn't care about her opinion. He thinks that the main thing is to marry her off successfully, but she has no intention of walking down the aisle at all. Leona replies that her family doesn't even care about that because making the right connections and getting a marriage proposal is all her older sister's business. Although she is, of course, not interested in marriage either, it is a little sad that her mother only cares about her older sister. And she has this feeling that she thinks that she has no value, but the main character at the same moment screams out, "Who dared to say such a thing? Let the lady bring this man there and she will scold him." Leona asks if Miss Judith is all right. After all, it seems that she ate too much chocolate. The main character replies that she is completely fine, after which she suddenly gets up and one of the ladies tells her to be careful. The girl only tells them to quickly say who needs to be scolded, but at that very moment she feels something soft behind her. The other ladies immediately rise from their seats because this man is His Majesty. The blonde man wonders where the girl is going, and Judith only asks if he came because he missed her. Theo replies that this is true because she did not come to the Imperial Palace today. The guy wonders why the lady is so drunk, and it seems like she only took a couple of sips of wine. He also wonders if the reason is hidden in those candies. Well, the main character says that time is of the essence, so they need to go quickly. The guy asks where, and the lady replies that bad guys need to be reprimanded. The blonde then turns to Lady Elzette and states that he thinks Judith needs to rest, so he wonders if he can borrow one of the guest rooms. To which the woman replies that yes, and he can be located in any. When the emperor takes the lady in his arms, then he thinks what a blessing it is that only women were invited to the banquet, because if only other men had seen this appearance, then he might have to gouge their eyes out. A little while later, the blonde man turns to Judith and asks how she is feeling. The girl replies that her throat is dry, after which the young man claims that he will bring her something to drink. The main character tells him not to leave, but the blonde insists that she herself said that her throat was dry. He also asks how he can stay close to her, and the main character tells him to stand there, after which she sits him down on the sofa and tells him to stay with her like this. Theo turns to Judith and, a little sheepishly, states that he doesn't think this is the right thing to do in the current situation. Well, the main character at this time asks if he is handsome, then that's all. She means that he sits and seduces a person without any effort, and this is a treacherous body, and also treacherous lips, so she should scold him well, after which the girl kisses him. But when the guy addresses her again, the lady just falls asleep and the guy asks if she is really sleeping, after which he all claims that in this way he will soon go crazy. The next day, at the Pellegrim residence, the girl says that she has a splitting headache if the maid asks if the mistress is okay. Judith replies that she is not okay at all and asks Maria how she got home yesterday. The girl realizes that she remembers eating whiskey candies with Isabella. The maid claims that His Majesty personally brought the lady to the residence, and because of this, his lordship and the young lords were in terrible indignation. To say that it was a commotion is to say nothing. The main character remembers the previous night. She also remembers Theo's expression and realizes that she suggested that he keep his distance, saying that she should prepare herself mentally, and then attacked him. The lady imagines how discouraged he was and then cries out that she will not go to the Imperial Palace today. Marie asks what this lady main character is talking about. She says again that she won't go, and that's it. A little while later, the girl reads the book and realizes that she didn't go to the Imperial Palace, and now she has to suffer from boredom. But at that very moment, someone runs into the ladies' room and says that something bad has happened. Judith asks Mary what happened. The girl replies that it was His Majesty. He personally came to her. The main character, in shock, asks what she is talking about, after which the butler knocks on the door, and the lady says that His Majesty has arrived to her. At this time, Maria greets the son of the Empire. The emperor asks if Judith is still sleeping, to which the maid replies, yes, after which the guy looks at the main character and smiles. Judith has already left, but then she hears a sound near her. It turns out to be His Majesty, who sits down on the bed. The blonde man asks how the lady is feeling, and the main character wonders if he is still there. The girl replies that she is fine, and the guy asks if this is true because if so, he is glad to hear it. The guy also lifts the lady up and claims that he has come all this way, so why would she not even show him her face? The main character is just embarrassed and tells him to let her go. The blonde guy claims that yesterday she was the first to sit on his lap and today she doesn't want to. Judith replies that yesterday she committed a crime against him worthy of being plunged into eternal sleep. The guy at this time asks what exactly and thinks how cute it is. Judith claims that she got drunk and behaved inappropriately in front of him. She called him by his name in front of everyone and spoke too tactlessly. In her thoughts, the lady adds that she also possessed and even managed to kiss him. Judith insists that she won't get drunk anymore, and the guy replies that it's a good idea. After all, if she appears like this in front of other men, it will create some difficulties for him too. Judith at this time understands that there is not a bit of laughter in his eyes, so she is afraid. But the guy at this time says that it seems that the lady never scolded him properly. The main character remembers what happened last night and almost cries. After which, the blonde asks what happened, and the lady only tells him not to tease her. That same evening in the Imperial Palace, the blonde realizes that he will no longer be able to see Judith today. At this time, the Marquise says that since he had put his work aside and was heading to the ducal residence, why shouldn't he stop frowning? She also says that thanks to His Majesty who called her and then suddenly disappeared, she smiled all this time while walking around the Imperial Palace. The guy then says that she came, and the woman replies that yes and asks why he called her, and since he made her wait, it means it's important. The blonde says that she needs to find someone and also let her conduct as quietly as possible an investigation into the Tempest Guild, together with Chiron. The woman then slams her hands on the table and asks why on earth she should cooperate with this man, and how important a bird is the one who needs to be found. The blonde is silent for a moment and then claims that Icart has shown up. The Marquise asks in shock what he is talking about. The guy claims that according to Kyan's report, it was confirmed that he came to the Empire through Ilhith 2 months ago. Traces of chimeras were found at each base, proving his experiments related to black magic. The woman claims that it looks like he's still aiming for Theo's place, and she told him that if the guy leaves him alive, it will end in disaster. The blonde is silent for a while in response to this, and then claims that if he starts to act personally, any smart person will guess that Icart is alive, and that is why he entrusts the search to the two of them, and in such a way that it is in no way conspicuous. The girl asks if he is really worried that the rebels will go over to his side, and that such a force will hardly be able to have any influence on him. The guy replies that yes, they do not pose a threat to him, and knowing this, they will incredibly try to put pressure on him in other ways. The woman asks if by another method he means Judith, and if they really think they will attack her. Elsette claims that when she saw the mention of marriage in the letter, she thought it was some kind of joke. But is the guy really serious about Lady Pelegrim? The blonde is silent for a while after that, but he claims that as she said, Icart must have aimed for his place, and Valdemar this empire united by conquering neighboring countries. Therefore there are still many who harbor misfortune, and risk factors that could become a hotbed of rebellion must be eliminated in advance. The Marquise then says that okay, she is not eager, but she will still cooperate with Chiron, and together they will sit on the tail of the guild called the Tempest. However, even if they find and put the prince into a crippled sleep, as long as Lady Pelegrim is the Emperor's beloved, she will continue to be threatened, and he won't be able to keep her by his side forever, after which the Marquise leaves, and the blonde claims that she has touched on too painful a subject. Theo realizes that he knew from the beginning how selfish it was of him to tie Judith to himself, and because of the promise she made in early childhood, which she doesn't even remember, and one night spent by mistake. Well, at least he knows it, however, when the lady said that he would no longer be lonely and she would become his family. After which, she gave him a ring as confirmation of the promise given as a sign that she would marry him. At this time, the young lady is dreaming about something, and the girl wonders if this is a dream, but she realizes that the environment seems too familiar for a dream. In this dream, the young man calls out his name, but at the same moment the maid screams like a mistress and tells her to get up. The main character asks what is going on, and the maid only asks why she is sleeping so long today. After all, the lady soon needs to go to the Imperial Palace, and if she doesn't start getting ready in a minute, she'll be late. Judith asks if she really got up that late. But a little while later, the girl is already heading towards the carriage. Her father turns to her and asks if she is also going to the imperial palace today. Judith replies that yes, she promised His Majesty to come. Then the girl asks if something is wrong. The man replies that to be honest, he had a disturbing dream last night, so he would like her to just stay home today. Judith claims that she will be in the imperial palace and asks what danger she could be in there, and His Majesty will also be nearby. The Duke asks what the girl is saying because this idiot is the most dangerous in the world. Judith realizes that she thought things had finally settled down lately, but he's back at it again. The lady also says that she can't break a promise without some special reason, and she will have a bodyguard with her so her father won't worry. The man then agrees, and he claims that it seems he was too worried, after which everyone tells him that their girlfriend should be careful on the road. A little while later, the main character arrives at the imperial palace and Theo offers her to have some cookies today. Judith says that today they can try something else because he always adapts to her tastes, but the guy replies that no, and today he also wants cookies. A little while later, the maid is already putting cookies on the table, and the blonde man turns to the lady. And he says that he heard that she gave the Marquise some cookies that she had baked herself. Judith replies that yes, and she is his closest relative, and that is why she wanted to get along with her. But when the girl looks at the Emperor's face, she thinks, what kind of reaction is this? Theo claims that he loves cookies too, but at the same moment the lady hears that he can't stand sweets, and he thinks, what just happened? At this time, the blonde asks Judith what happened, and the main character apologizes and claims that she thought for a moment, so tomorrow she will bake cookies for him, and today he can enjoy what is lying on the table for now. When the main character takes one of them, the guy only pulls her hand to himself, and also bites this cookie. Judith at this time remembers how in childhood there was something similar. She asked the guy if he liked it. Now the girl is coming to her senses and wondering what's been going on with her lately. And are these really her memories? The butler at this time asks to forgive him for disturbing her, but he claims that everything he asked for is ready, to which the man agrees and says that he can go. After which the guy turns to Judith and claims that he wants to show her something, so he asks if she will go for a walk with him. As the two head into the garden, the main character says that the days are so sunny and it looks like summer has fully come into its own. Judith wondered if he just wanted to show Hayes the garden, although she was a little nervous about what her father had said this morning. But Theo behaves absolutely. She is the same as usual. At the same moment, the wind blows outside. His Majesty turns to the lady and asks if she is okay. Judith replies that yes, and the wind just blew unexpectedly, so she was surprised. Well, when the girl turns around, she wonders if it's really snow, after which she catches something on her hand, and she realizes that it is not snow. When the main character looks around, then she sees a lot of cherry trees and says how beautiful it is. Theo asks her if she likes it, and the main character answers His Majesty that it is so beautiful that it seems to her as if she is sleeping. The girl also wonders how the cherry tree can bloom at such a time, and the guy replies that in the northern part of the empire the trees have not yet blossomed, so he ordered several to be brought to the capital. When the flowers were about to bloom, all the empire's magicians were mobilized, and Sir Ludwig's abilities were truly outstanding. Well, the main character wonders why it was necessary to go so far. To which the guy replies that she herself said that she wants this to be the day when the cherry trees will bloom. The girl wonders if this is really what she thinks, and the blonde replies that the cherry tree is blooming now, so he proposes marriage. Judith is shocked to think what kind of situation this is now, and even if he wants to get married as soon as possible, how could one commit such madness? It defies any laws of common sense. The girl wonders if she will have to walk down the aisle at this rate. Theo notices her excitement, and he claims that he knows that she is avoiding him, who is the emperor. One look at her face is enough to understand this, and the title of empress must be burdensome. After all, he has many enemies, many of whom will begin to persecute the lady. However, he will not allow anyone to harm her. And she will also do whatever she wants, and make sure that anyone who threatens her cannot even set foot on the territory of the empire. He will also make the lady an empress who will live the most luxurious life in the history of the empire. And it is enough for her to just be near him. Theo asks Judith to fulfill his request. The main character understands that she wants to believe him, and this is the ideal man who is not afraid of anything. extremely worried just because of what is about to come out of her mouth, so the girl thinks, how can such a situation not make one hesitate? But she still apologizes to His Majesty, and she claims that she cannot marry him. Laren asks why. And was he really just a one-night stand for her? Judith realizes that she likes Theo and she wants to stay with him, but if the guy chooses Serena, she will have to go into eternal sleep. The main character tells His Majesty that it is not that she does not like him, and she just thinks that he is in too much of a hurry. Earlier, the Emperor said that he would adjust to her own rhythm, so the lady asks to give her a little more time so that she can get to know him better. Theo asks how much time she needs, and the main characters do not answer that it will take until the cherry trees truly bloom. But the guy wonders what if, while he's waiting for her answer, she dumps him. Judith asks what he's talking about, and the Emperor replies that during their first meeting, she also ran away, leaving only a short note, and later lied that she was a servant in the Duke's house. Well then, he looks at the girl's expression and asks why she is laughing. Judith says she just suddenly realized she went a little overboard. The girl also wonders if he really kept everything that happened in his heart. And it's so sweet, Judith says there's one way to make him forget his worries and asks if the Emperor wants to listen. A little while later, the Duke asks his daughter if she is engaged to His Majesty. The girl's brother immediately asks if this guy threatened her, because if she had discussed everything with them first, well, at that very moment, the other brother says that he will simply attack the Imperial Palace right now. Judith realizes that she guessed that everything would be exactly like this, after which she even asserts it. That she was the first to propose it to His Majesty, and he never threatened her. His Majesty kept postponing the question of marriage, so the nobles kept pestering him with marriage proposals. But now that he has a bride, the talk of marriage will die down for a while. And His Majesty himself will no longer be in a hurry with the wedding, and if time is delayed, then most likely His Majesty's interest in her will cool, and then breaking off the engagement will not be a problem. Well then, her relatives furiously ask if this is even possible. The Duke claims that this guy was so enthusiastic about marrying her right now, and her brother says that there is no man in this world who has rejected Judith. And even a fool can see that while they are engaged, he will become even more obsessed with her. Chiron then looks at his brother, who asks what happened. After which he actually hits Ludwig. The main character thinks that this is amazing. And when she is with these people, her self-esteem skyrockets. But Theo's feelings may actually change if the story follows the original. There are 3 months left until the Harvest Festival when the original plot begins, and she wants this day to come sooner. Or better yet, it would never happen at all. The lady's heart is torn apart by complex feelings. A little while later, the blonde man claims that in 2 weeks his engagement to Lady Pellegrim will take place. He also asks if anyone has any objections. The aristocrats understand that the contender for the place of Empress, usually presented to His Majesty after the Council of Nobles has chosen a candidate. But His Majesty himself made the decision, and her choice fell on the daughter of the ducal house. The Duke at this time recalls how his daughter said that since the decision had already been made, the engagement would not be cancelled. And now he's starting to get angry, and he also realizes that he said he respected Judith's opinion, therefore he cannot simply take and turn everything upside down. The other aristocrats at this time look at him and think, could it really be that he warned that objections are not accepted? The blonde says that if there are no objections, then they can move on to the next point concerning preparations for the engagement. A little while later, the meeting ends and the aristocrats heading home talk among themselves. One of them claims that the meeting was exciting, and he would never have thought that His Majesty would make such a loud statement. Someone turns to Joseph and congratulates him. It turns out to be the Marquis of Estan. The man says that Joseph refused the marriage of his daughter and his son Caleb, so he wonders if he planned to make his daughter empress from the beginning. The Duke rolls around and gets furious and realizes that these words are like a trifle, but inside he is boiling with anger. Joseph also thinks whether he wants to know that his daughter is millions of times more valuable than this worthless emperor. He also turns to the Marquis and says that it seems he misunderstood something because even if it weren't for the emperor, he still wouldn't have given his daughter to Caleb. And rumors about his son probably didn't reach him, because of his intrigues with young ladies, the gates of the Marquis's residence must be knocking with many illegitimate children. And is there even one father in the world who would want to marry his daughter to such a lecher? The Duke also wonders how he dares to even think about his daughter going to such an idiot and let him not even dream about it. The Marquis clenches his fists after these words, and the Duke turns and leaves. The man curses this Duke, and he asks if he really thinks that after such an insult, his daughter will be safe. That same day, on the outskirts of Irsena, a brunette is in a room preening himself in front of a mirror. At that moment, someone knocks on the door and asks if he can come in. The guy replies that he can and asks what happened. The service responds that the Marquis Estan came to him and said that he needs to see him because he has something to talk about. The guy then says that he should come in, and a little while later the Marquis is already addressing His Highness. He also hopes that he was in good health. The man asks when they last saw each other, but the brunette only claims that he was informed that he had a serious conversation. The man replies that yes, and it won't take much time. Recently at a meeting of nobles, one issue was decided, and it seems to him that the gentleman should know what the decision was. The guy asks what the gist of it is. His interlocutor replies that His Majesty has announced his engagement to Lady Pelegrim. If the Emperor intermarries with the ducal house, his power will increase significantly. It goes without saying that His Highness will become the new Emperor, but it is necessary to block any possibility of the Emperor gaining excess power. The brunette asks what exactly he wants to say about the man, and then smirks, and he claims that he has a wonderful plan to ruin the Emperor's engagement. A little while later, the Marquis is already leaving, and the servant turns to Mr. Icart and asks what he will do. After all, although there is logic in the Marquis's words, the risk is too great, since his body has not yet fully recovered. The guy replies that he needs to think about the Marquis's plan, and until then, let the servant do nothing and just wait for him to agree to it. When the guy puts his hand on his coat, his interlocutor asks if the gentleman is going to go somewhere, to which he replies that yes, he needs some fresh air. A little while later, the guy is already in the city. He thinks about the engagement and realizes that he had no idea that his brother valued Lady Pelegrim to such an extent, and it turns out that the Emperor sees her as a future empress, but he doesn't like it. At this time, the brunette sees a sign for a pastry shop in front of him and realizes that he has apparently gone crazy. But at that very moment, he starts having an attack, and the woman turns to the guy and also asks, does he think he can meet her if he goes there, and if so, then Icart is just ridiculous. The brunette just tells the woman to shut up, and the brunette invites him to see for himself. After all, this woman decided to marry the Emperor, and he has no value as a person. Although he was born into an imperial family, he does not possess any abilities, and is a person who is not capable of ascending to the imperial throne. No one needs him, and no one will love him. All who are near him will only suffer. After which the woman asks if this is true because in the end, even she fell into eternal sleep from his hand. At the same moment, an explosion occurs in the city, and people seeing this are shocked and also wonder what happened. One of them says to call the guards. The brunette is at the center of events at this time. With the ground crumbling beneath them, the guards run up to the explosion site and wonder if it really happened there. But when they get closer, they realize that the culprit has already escaped. One of the guards tells the other to carefully examine the surroundings for suspicious individuals. The accused understands that at that moment he had another attack. It is dangerous to continue to stay there, so he needs to leave. The guy understands that if he returns to the guild now, the shelter may be under threat, and he thinks about where it would be best to hide. When he approaches the Duke's estate, he thinks how tired he is because he would really like to just take and destroy everyone. At this time, one of the guards screams that he saw this guy running in that direction, and the brunette understands that he needs to quickly hide somewhere. The main character is in her room at this time and asks if her father and brothers are really not in the mansion today. Marie replies that it seems that both his lordship and the young masters are busy with their assigned duties, and she has heard that they should be back by tomorrow. Judith states that she has wanted to practice magic for the first time in a long time. The lady also understands that training without her brothers is beyond her strength, and perhaps she should take a walk in the garden before going to bed. As the girl walks through the garden, she thinks how long it has been since she moved without a bodyguard. Lately, the guards have been following her literally on her heels. Well, at that very moment, the lady notices something moving in the bushes, and he wonders what that sound is, and whether there really is a cat sitting there. Judith approaches there and asks whether it really is a kitten, but at that very moment someone covers her mouth, after which he is thrown to the floor. It turns out to be that same brunette. The guy claims that she better keep her mouth shut because if she makes a sound, then he will fall into eternal sleep. Judith realizes that this is a chocolate bun. Well, then the girl tries to break free, and the guy finally frees her face. Judith immediately asks why he is there and whether he really came for the promised reward. But when she sees him breathing heavily, she says that it doesn't look like that. The girl also asks if something hurts him. But when she is about to touch him, suddenly magic comes from the guy. Icart tells her not to touch his body and to get out because he will leave soon, so let her get lost. The main character thinks what he and this guy said to leave and then fell unconscious, so she doesn't understand what to do. The lady also wonders if he has fallen into eternal sleep, after which she turns the guy over onto his back. When she hears his breathing, she understands that thank God life has not yet left his body, but it looks like he has a serious injury somewhere. She also sees how the skin on his neck is darkening and thinks that maybe that's the reason, and even though this guy said not to touch him, saving his life is a priority. So she will only check if there is an injury or not. However, when the girl unbuttons his shirt, who comes in shock. And she thinks, what is this? Because she feels mana from which nausea rises in her throat. Judith realizes that this is no ordinary spell because the man's body is under a spell. The main character thinks what she should do because it seems to her that his life is under threat, and the lady thinks whether it is possible to somehow get rid of this nastiness. However, when the girl touches him, everything around her darkens. Icart at this time thinks that it is hard and scary for him, and also wonders why he alone has to go through all this. The boy sees someone addressing him and saying that this is where he was. The young man is sitting in the bushes at this time, and also wonders if this is Mrs. Freya. This woman was the former empress and Theo's biological mother. The woman claims that she did tell him that he could call her mom because he is Theo's younger brother. Of course, if he himself doesn't want it, then she won't force him. Freya also tells him to go there because she has prepared cookies and tea for him. But the young man claimed that his mother would scold him, to which the woman replied that everything was fine because she would talk to Arietta. He asked if this was true, and the woman replied that yes, so let him come to her quickly, and it would be a shame if everything cooled down. After which the guy extended his hand to her, and the lady with a smile on her face claimed that he finally took her hand. The guy understood that her hand was so warm and it would be great if this woman was his real mother. At that moment, the guy opens his eyes and sees the main character next to him. He immediately jumps up from his seat, and when he saw that the lady was holding his hand, he immediately pushes her away. Icart realizes that he is still in the Pellegrim mansion, but wonders why the Duke's daughter is sleeping next to him. Well, when the guy looks at his body, he notices that the side effects of black magic that plagued his body have all disappeared. Until today, he tried everything to try to get rid of them, but it only made him worse. The uncontrollable surge of mana also subsided, and the young man wondered if it was because of her ability, absorb magical power. If the lady saw what happened to him, then there is a high probability that she became aware of his true identity. So if he gets rid of the Duke's daughter now and gets her red liquid, then this girl's ability will be in his hands. Well, then the main character opens her eyes. Then she gets up and asks if he's in pain anymore. She stretches his shirt, and she claims that there was clearly some kind of disgusting mana on the guy's body, but the brunette tells her to wait. The main character, looking at his body, asks if everything has disappeared, after which she says what a relief it is. The guy is surprised by this, and the girl closes her eyes completely and then falls on him. Icart realizes that he needs to obtain her abilities and cannot allow his true identity to be revealed. There are many reasons and excuses that indicate that he should get rid of this girl. The guy still asks why every time he is unable to touch her even with a finger. The knights are searching the place where the brunette's base is located. His charges are pacing around the room worrying about their master. But a little while later, the brunette enters the room, and the servant immediately says that he is safe and sound. But there were guards walking around the streets everywhere, so he was very worried about him. They said that they were increasing security because of the explosion that had happened nearby. But no, he just turned to Verdi and claimed that he was ready to accept the Marquis's offer, so he should notify him about it tomorrow. To which the servant agrees and asserts that the master's will be fulfilled. Well, he still asks what happened outside and didn't he put on his robe when he left. The brunette then claims that he lost it, and the main character stands next to this robe the next day. She looks at her silently but then realizes that she doesn't remember at all what happened yesterday. She only remembers that her body was enveloped in nasty mana, and after that there was complete emptiness. Judith realizes that the guy came back to normal thanks to her ability to absorb magical power. But when she opened her eyes again, he had already disappeared, so the lady wondered if everything was okay with him. This guy's condition was extremely bad, and this was the first time she encountered such unpleasant mana. She feels like it's black magic, but then the girl realizes that she must be wrong because Icart hates Theo terribly. And if that person were Icart, he would never leave her who is Theo's beloved alone. But on the contrary, he helped her several times. Then the main character thinks how the hell he got such a wound because she saw many old scars on his body. Judith realizes that she needs to stop and can't think about him anymore because it's clear at first glance that he's dangerous. There are only a few days left before the engagement ceremony, so she doesn't want to get into trouble. The lady also hopes that this was the last time she will see him. A little while later, the day of Judith's engagement ceremony arrives. The maid turns to the mistress and says that she is beautiful. The main character asks if it is so. She is interested in whether it is too flashy and she is dressed. The maid claims that it is about the engagement with the emperor, and even if the lady indulges in even more luxury, there will be no problem. In this case, the girl says that she thinks it will be difficult for her to move. The lady's brother happens to be with her at this time and asks if Judith is ready. The main character turns to her brother and asks how long he has been waiting. After all, she had just finished all the preparations and was about to go out. When the guy sees his little sister, then she starts crying. The main character asks what happened, and the guy asks for forgiveness and claims that he is now overcome with mixed feelings. He also tells Judith that he thinks this is all wrong and suggests that they just drop the engagement. Judith insists that she is not getting married or leaving the house because it is just an engagement. Well, the brunette replies that the problem is that it's an engagement. The girl interrupts her brother and claims that everything will be fine. After all, he had been at His Majesty's side for a long time, so he himself came as a very kind and nice person. At this time, the guy is interested in whether she speaks about him as kind and sweet, after which she says that it seems that His Majesty to whom she speaks is a completely different person, but the lady only grabs her brother by the hand and claims that at this rate they will be late, so they suggest going quickly. A little while later, the main character is already heading in a carriage and thinks that she seems too beautiful today. Judith wonders if Theo will be happy to see her, and since we are talking about an engagement, he will obviously appear in all his glory. And she even wonders if he can be even more magnificent than usual. That's why she wants to meet him as soon as possible. When the carriage starts to stop, the main character wonders if they have already arrived at the Imperial Palace. But one of the servants claims that there seems to be some kind of problem. Chiron turns to his sister and says that he will check what happened and that she should wait in the carriage for now, to which the girl agrees. After which, the brunette approaches one of the guards and asks what is going on there. The man approaches the commander, who claims that the man says he came to deliver flowers for an engagement ceremony, but the merchant who received the same request passed through the gate an hour ago, and the merchant who arrived earlier has almost completed the delivery. Chiron claims that this is indeed suspicious and asks if they checked the recipe, to which he replies that this is exactly how it is now and was going to check everything. Chiron says that then he will check with me when he opens the letter he sees, that it says that he came to return what the cruel tyrant of the empire Valdemar took. The merchant tells the lord that there is clearly the seal of the imperial house there and asks if he can now enter inside. Well, the guy asks from whom he received this request, to which the man replies that it was from the manager of the Imperial Palace. Chiron immediately shows the merchant the letter and tells him not to dare lie because this seal looks very much like a fake. The man replies that this cannot be, and the lady's brother asks if he has read the contents of the letter, after which he keeps asking him how the merchant dares to try to enter the Imperial Palace with a letter revealing his betrayal of His Majesty. But at that very moment, one of the knights turns to the commander and claims that the entire cart is filled with magic stones. The boy asks if this is really true and wonders what the merchant intended to do by bringing forbidden items into the Imperial Palace. The man replies that he is a small man and has no idea what it is because he was simply told to deliver the cargo to the Imperial Palace. Well, at that very moment, Chiron puts his sword to his neck and claims that the magic stone is a tool that allows one to use magic even from a distance. And even one stone is extremely dangerous, and with such a quantity you can easily smash the entire imperial palace to pieces. The man immediately bows and claims that he was wrong and asks the master to forgive him. After all, he doesn't even know how to read and write, and that's why he really thought that it was the imperial seal. The brunette then says that the old man should be taken away and interrogated, and that he will first look at a separate palace and then return again, to which they agree. At this time, the man begs the master not to do this because his little children are waiting for him at home, and if he does not return, they will fall into eternal sleep from hunger. The main character at this time turns to her brother. The guy says that he told her to wait inside the carriage, but the girl only says that she thinks about him already being late. To which he replies that he really does, and also suggests going quickly, but the girl asks what will happen to that man. The brunette replies that the magic stones are an item prohibited from being brought into the imperial palace, and since he tried to smuggle them inside secretly, he will not be able to avoid punishment. Even if he doesn't know how to read and write, the fact that he accepted a dubious request to the luminary is his responsibility, and she shouldn't dwell on it. Judith wonders if she should really let the situation go, because the one who uses such desperate people is essentially the worst person in the world. A little while later, Chiron asks if it's true that nothing bad will happen if his sister is alone. The main character asks what will happen if she is left alone, and especially since there are knights standing in front of the door, and her father and Ludwig will come soon. She also tells the guy not to worry and just go, because something similar could happen again. The brunette replies that he will try to return as soon as possible, and if the lady goes somewhere, then he should definitely take the knights with him for something, and agrees. The girl wonders if something similar happened in the original during Theo and Judith's engagement. She is a little worried because she has no idea how the events broke down before the novel began, and maybe she should get some fresh air above the terrace when the main character goes out there, who sighs. But at that same moment, she sees someone using magic on one of the guards and wonders what it is. The lady also sees that this man has a magic stone in his hands and thinks that means there are already intruders in the castle. It seems that the merchant was just bait, and the girl understands that she needs to tell Chiron about this as soon as possible. But when she is about to open the door, someone asks if the guy is looking after the Duke's daughter. Well, the other one answers that the commander, who was the main obstacle, is not there now, and the lady is sitting alone in the room, so everything worked out for the best. Judith thinks that's what they are talking about. And one of the knights claims that the order is to keep her locked up while the plan is being implemented. Even the emperor cannot afford to act rashly when they have his bride in their hands. The main character wonders what kind of plan this is and whether it is somehow connected with the magic stone she saw earlier. Because of the engagement ceremony, many people have gathered in the imperial palace, and if an explosion occurs, there everyone will be in great danger. At the same moment, this knight turns to Lady Pellegrim and apologizes for disturbing her, after which they enter the room but realize that there is no one there. One of the knights screams. Did she suspect something was wrong and run away? The main character, being behind the door, understands that now she must not make a mistake under any circumstances, and there is no one there who could help her. The lady conjures up some water and one of the knights asks what it is, after which the water balloons burst. Well, this does not cause any harm to the knights, and one of them asks what it is. Another replies that it is just water, and what kind of magic could a lady who grew up in luxury and prosperity conjure? One of them claims that they don't want to use force, so he suggests that the lady just follow them. But the main character starts using lightning magic. One of the knights claims that they were told that the lady is not capable of using magic of this level. But the main character replies that this time everything will be different, because water is a good conductor of electricity. The girl casts a spell on them, after which the two fall to the floor. The main character steps on the hand of one of them with her heel and wonders if she managed to disarm them. When the knights don't move, the lady realizes that she has succeeded, so she needs to quickly get rid of the magic stone in the fountain and tell Chiron about what happened. A little while later, the girl is already looking for this stone, and when she gets it out of the fountain, she realizes that he is much bigger than she thought, but with such a size, he clearly poses a danger. Ludwig said that magic stones are mana crystals, and it turns out that she can absorb it with her ability. The girl does so, and also understands that the magic stone has disappeared, and then she needs to go to Chiron. But at that very moment, the lady notices that the man who hid the stone in the fountain has returned. The main character thinks why he came again, and the guy just bends down to the bushes, and he takes out another stone, after which the main character wonders if he really had more than one stone. Judith wonders what to do because she can't leave knowing that there is a huge magic stone lying there. And what if, while she's calling for Chiron, an explosion happens? She'll have to go after this guy, absorbing all the magic stones on her way. It is much more effective to get rid of all the magic stones right now than to wait until the knights come and search everything there. The girl also understands that it is better to take off her heels because God forbid he hears her following him. A little while later, the guy is already placing magic stones around the mansion, and the main character follows him and absorbs them. The girl, having finished with another stone, understands that it is very difficult to endlessly absorb mana. Well, then she looks at the place where that stranger should be and realizes that he has already disappeared. The lady thinks that she needs to catch up with him quickly, but when she turns the corner, then he realizes that he is too close. At that moment, someone grabs the lady and tells her to be quiet. It turns out to be His Majesty, and the guy turns to the lady and says that it is him. The main character asks how he knew that she was there, and he asks if when a lady leaves her shoes, it doesn't mean that you need to follow her. Theo wonders how it was possible to walk around the palace grounds barefoot, and what if she got hurt? Judith replies that she did it because she thought the heels were too loud, and it was more important to catch up with that man. The guy replies that it is not something she should worry about, and then offers to go because he will take her to where the knights are. Judith says that this man has magic stones with him, but the blonde asks what's wrong with Togo. The main character asks what he's talking about because the people in the castle could get hurt. Theo asks if the fact that she might get hurt doesn't bother her, and does the lady really not understand at all how dangerous the steps she is taking now are, and also how it was possible to follow that suspicious man without any protection. Judith replies that she is fine because she has the ability to absorb mana, to which the guy replies that he knows, and there is nothing he doesn't know about her. Then the main character asks why he treats her like that, and Theo replies that he wants the lady to be completely safe. He also claims that if something happens to her again, well, then the guy will shut up. The main character at this time is wondering what about her opinion because she does not want to become a beautiful doll that will stand next to His Majesty. At that very moment, an explosion occurs, and the main character wants to run there, but His Majesty stops her. Judith says that now is not the time to stand there and chat because they need to get there quickly. The guy then bites his Koopa but then picks up the lady and says that he thinks it will be faster that way. He also tells the girl to hold on to him tightly because it is much safer. Judith agrees and hugs him. The stranger looks at the damage and wonders why there are no more explosions. After all, he hid the magic stones everywhere, but at that moment someone comes up to him from behind and claims that they were all destroyed. But he was very bold to decide to arrange something like this in the Imperial Palace. The blonde claims that if he tells who is behind him, his life will be spared. This man claims that he is immensely glad that the Emperor himself came for his soul. Well, then he opens the cloak in which many magic stones are hidden and asks if he really thinks that his reign will be eternal. The main character wonders if these are magic stones and if they are going to cause an explosion, after which the girl tells His Majesty that it is dangerous. But at that very moment, the guy makes a dash towards this man and then cuts him open. Judith immediately falls to her knees in excitement. The Knights of the Vat are approaching, and one of them cries out that the explosion occurred in this direction. His Majesty at this time turns to Judith and asks if she is okay and also if everything is okay. But when the guy holds out his hand to the red liquid, the girl only closes her eyes. Then the lady realizes what she has done and immediately opens them and turns to His Majesty. But at that very moment, someone else turns to the lady and asks if she is okay. It turns out that they are members of her family, and the lady claims that she is fine because His Majesty protected her. The blonde at this time only heads towards the knights and tells them to find the remaining violators. Judith realizes that just a moment ago he was longer, but the girl wonders why now she feels a huge gap between them. After checking the damage, it turned out that the blast zone was small, and fortunately there were no casualties. The blonde at this time turns to Chiron and asks how things are with the flower merchant who brought the magic stones, to which the guy replies that his innocence was confirmed and he thinks that he was bait to attract the attention of the guards. The emperor asks if they have captured all the henchmen, to which he replies that they are now trying to figure out who is behind all this. The blonde says that this is good and orders Sir Chiron to supervise the knight's work, to which he agrees and then leaves. Theo claims that they will move the engagement ceremony to another day, and the main game does not care what he is talking about. The blonde man claims that if Judith follows the current schedule, it will become too much of a burden for her, and he thinks it would be better to go home today and rest. Well, then the main character gets up and says that she is completely fine and not hurt at all. The Marchioness at this time claims that if Lady Peregrine does not mind, she would like the engagement ceremony to take place today according to the schedule, since postponing the engagement is a waste of the budget. The reason why the enemies chose today as the date of the attack was probably to show the nobles what they were capable of, so wouldn't it be better to demonstrate the authority of the imperial family at such a time? Ludwig claims that what the Marquise said makes sense and asks if Judith is really okay. The main character replies that, on the contrary, she will feel more tired if the engagement is postponed to another day, and the ones who invaded seemed to want to stop the engagement ceremony, so even if they set another day for the engagement, the same thing might happen, and she also thought that the engagement ceremony should be held today. The lady's brother says that if she has already decided, so be it. The main character at this time turns to His Majesty and belittling looks at him, after which the guy says that it is good and also offers to conduct the engagement ceremony according to the schedule. A little while later, the two are already in the church, and the priest tells them to finally swear their vows with a kiss. The main character's relatives are only angry about this, and the girl understands that these two should not destroy the property of the imperial palace under any circumstances, but it's good that Chiron went on patrol. After which, the blonde pulls the lady towards him, and the main character asks what happened. And maybe something is causing him discomfort, to which the guy replies that nothing of the sort, and that the lady is simply too beautiful. The guy kisses her on the forehead, and the priest announces the end of the engagement and congratulates the two. At this time, the main character is thinking about what just happened, and she has the feeling that he is keeping quiet about something. A few hours later, they are already heading to the banquet hall to celebrate their engagement. The eldest son of Marquis Estan, named Caleb Estan, says that this girl is so proud to be the emperor's bride. He also turns to his friend and asks if he is not curious how she managed to seduce the emperor. After all, there are rumors that she seduced the emperor with her body, and perhaps this lady is much more vulgar than it seems at first glance. The brunette then turns to Caleb and claims that he better watch his language, because if someone hears it, they will be in big trouble. But at that moment, the two see the Duke in front of them. Caleb realizes that he is in trouble and thinks how much he has heard. But nevertheless, there are many eyes there, and therefore he will not be able to do anything to him, and the blonde claims that it is a great honor for him to meet the man who will become the national leader in the future, but at that very moment the guy gets punched in the face, causing him to fall to the floor. The brunette at this time supports his colleague and asks for forgiveness before his lordship, because his friend drank a lot and therefore does not realize his actions. The Duke asks if the boy thinks that alcohol is an indulgence that washes away all sins. Well, the blonde at that very moment gets up from his seat and screams, "How dare the Duke," after which he is about to hit him. But the man only pushes the guy away with his foot, after which he falls to the floor. The young man's father is shocked by this, after which he approaches the guy and asks what is going on there. He also turns to Joseph and asks what he did to his son. But the Duke replies that the Marquis should have raised his child better so that nothing like this would happen, and it seems that his son is not able to watch his language when he sings. The man also claims that they are celebrating the engagement of his precious daughter, so he should take this creature and get the hell out of there. The Marquis then becomes furious and claims that he will never forgive him for this. A little while later, he comes out with his son. The main character turns around and thinks, "What is this?" because some strange noise is coming from that side. Judith also turns to her father and asks if something happened there, but the man replies that nothing special happened and the lady cannot pay attention. More importantly, she looks very tired, so he asks if she wants to rest. The main character asks how the party will go without her, and the man replies that everything is fine because the banquet is already coming to an end, and especially if she is not there, then His Majesty is there. Judith understands that frankly because of what happened during the day she is a little tired, after which the lady even says that her father should tell His Majesty that she will rest a little in some empty room, and he agrees. A little while later the main heroine already lies down on the bed and sighs, and also understands that now she feels alive. Today was indeed a crazy day, but nevertheless, she is glad that they still managed to somehow complete the engagement ceremony. The girl wonders if it is because she has stopped being nervous, her eyes are sticking together, after which the lady completely falls asleep. A little while later, someone else enters the room and approaches her. It turns out to be His Majesty, and the guy just silently watches the girl and then wonders if she is having nightmares. Well, when he touches her face, the lady immediately opens her eyes and turns to His Majesty. The girl gets up from the bed and asks when he arrived and how things are going with the banquet. Well, when she reaches out to him, the guy just moves away. Judith asks if she somehow ruined his mood because he hasn't been acting like himself all day and didn't seem happy at all during the engagement ceremony. The girl also says that maybe it's because she didn't listen to his words until the last moment. But the guy replies that it's not about that, and he would never hate her for such a trifle. And he just didn't want the engagement ceremony to go like this. He didn't want her to have to overexert herself like this, and he also hoped that it would be the happiest and most joyful day of her life.